you mangy dogs. Swab the decks and hoist the sails. The guns on board be needing some proper manning. Pieces of 8 and a fine wench on your arm. If your work be not too shoddy. Careful not to flounder too badly, though, or you may have to dance the hempen jig as we see you to Davy Jones. The Chaffee, my boy, on with the show.
Welcome, everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to a breaking exclusive Biden AI robocall scandal is what we're calling it this week. It is it's unplanned, actually, very spontaneous and mostly off the cuff. Episode 322 of Pirate Radio Podcast. I am your host, as always, the Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Before we get to the show description end of things, let us remind you that WPRPN.com is the website you'll want to drop by and take a look at. Sign up is free. All you simply need is a username, password, and email. From there, everything should be pretty much straightforward. If you do happen to run into any problems along the way, do not hesitate in getting back to us via our main email address, pirate1radio@protonmail.com. That's pirate, the numeral 1, radio@protonmail.com. We'll take whatever steps are necessary in helping to smooth things over, get you sailing off in just the sort of direction you hope to be. Be sure as well to check out the show description end of things. We got a lot of great quality links available, not least of which, of course, is our Teespring store. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, all sorts of great network-related items up for grabs. We have a Patreon presence, and a number of other really key URLs, including minds.com, DLive, BitChute, and Odyssey. All four of those, in fact, have their own in-house digital rewards systems and wallets, essentially. So any of your most favorite independent online underground content producers, that's a great way for them to generate a little bit in the way of support and booster power, basically, is what it's mostly there for. So keep that in mind. Minds.com, DLive, BitChute, and Odyssey. Odyssey itself, anytime you just drop by and click on a link, particular item that you are curious about, the content producer immediately receives a little bit of that booster power. So it's really simple, straightforward, easy to do, and especially for people running on a tight budget, if you're not able to help out with donations of any kind, whether through PayPal or the purchase of Teespring items or what have you, it's pretty quick and painless. So definitely give that some thought. Speaking of PayPal, pirate1radio@protonmail.com, once again, is how you go about doing that. As far as working, as far as the way we've got things set up via our end of things here, of course. So certainly, if it's within your means, give that some thought. Half of everything that we do manage to generate goes directly back to charity. Not sure why more social media content producers don't promote a similar way of doing things philosophy and approach, but it's something that we embrace, very much in line with the whole hashtag WWRHD. What would Robin Hood do? Ethos and philosophy. So, uh, liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit the subscription notification buttons, of course, always a good thing, very much appreciated, and passing word along to your friends, family, and co-workers. Uh, Something we failed just briefly, last thing here, forgot to mention actually, is with respect to the email, not only is it something that is set up in conjunction with the PayPal, but also if you have any show suggestions or guest ideas in mind, definitely hit us up through that approach. It's uh, also a way that you can stay in the loop, as it were, and make your way onto our email list. So, having said all this, I guess we should shift our focus now to the meat of the matter. And with this exclusive, really unplanned feature episode, this came at us right from out of the blue, but break-in exclusive, Biden AI robocall confession is really more what uh, it could quite have easily been titled. But with Paul David Carpenter, someone who we've had on in the past, known for the past 6 months or so at least. He's been on the show from time to time in various forms and capacities. But whether you knew it or not, last month's New Hampshire Democratic primary was rocked by a major AI robocall scandal. Who was behind it? Why encourage people not to vote? What might they have to gain? Details were entirely shrouded in mystery until now. Joining us for this cutting edge scoop is a man at the center of the debacle, return guest, magician, and illusionist Paul David Carpenter. According to him, or rather, according to the New Orleans Magic Man, a deep state Democratic operative paid him to impersonate President Joe Biden for the robocall currently in the midst of a multi-state law enforcement investigation. With the story now breaking worldwide, Paul has graciously granted us his testimony for the special feature edition exclusive. And whoever thought truth wasn't stranger than fiction? Welcome back to the show, Paul. Strange world we live in.
My God, you have no idea, Jeffrey. It is absolutely ridiculous what I'm living in right now and what I've been through this last day. Since about, it started at 7 in the morning, but I think at about 1 o'clock I had the first thing where I was on the phone with somebody and talking and moving around and just the feeling of, so many people thinking and knowing what's going on and getting attacked all day long by people on the internet. It was really cool.
You're a bad actor, in the eyes of some at least.
Yeah, no, I've been told by people that I'm
You're a pretty good actor,
What's it called? No, what did they call me? A terrorist. I'm a terrorist. I'm not. I hate America. I either hate or love Trump, depending on where they come from. Or I hate or like Biden. It's hilarious. So
yeah. So
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, and that's a large part of why you're here, is to give your version of events, how this all came about. Found yourself in the midst of what is now something of a, a political maelstrom. So why don't we, first of all, just,
Well, let's unpack the sentence that is the first sentence of what they say,
okay.
because that thing is so loaded, and it makes it sound like this other thing than what actually happened. So, and it's just, it's loaded because the guy's trying to sell magazines. I get it, but this is how it goes. Read the first sentence. I think it's Democratic. Uh, uh, I don't have it in front of me.
What are you talking about? The NBC story?
Yeah. That one right there. That title of the NBC is Democratic conspirator or something like that. Hires magician to make Robo Biden call to tell people not to vote in the primary.
Okay, and the
Right?
reason you're taking exception to that, I suppose, from the sounds of things.
Well, because the whole thing's incorrect.
Oh, you're talking about the headline. A New Orleans magician says a Democratic operative paid him to make the fake Biden robocall. That's not the truth at all.
So
Is that what you're saying?
Here it is. This is well. First of all, Democratic operative is a very three really powerful words. When the story goes, let's just go through the story because it's so heavy that it's just ridiculous. It all starts with I have a friend of mine that I've known for 10 plus years. And we've had an off and on relationship over different things. And one of them was getting shot at one of his properties over some really stupid, tragic BS. And I stopped talking to the guy for years. And then on my way to Miami 3 years ago, I bumped into him on the street, literally the only day that I was in Miami as I was traveling through. And then from that point, over the next 2 years, we talked, I don't know, 7 or 8 times, maybe. And at which point, around the time that I'm leaving Miami, this is the reason I left Miami. He calls me and says, I just bought a business. And this is because I had sent him some videos and some YouTube channels on buying a business with no money down, which I shared with another friend of mine as well, who was in Miami, who also followed my lead on this idea. And I don't have the money, but there are people who do have money, and they, sometimes they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me try that or whatever. Anyway, so my friend calls me a couple months later. He says, yeah, I bought this business. I need a website. I need social media. I'll pay you this much money per month, $2,000 a month. You can stay at my place. Give me $600 for rent. Everything be chill, blah, blah, blah. Okay, no problem. He sends me some money in advance. I fix my motorcycle, get a tune-up, get on the road, come straight to New Orleans. And I'm in this house with my friend. And then this character, Steve Kramer, he comes in out of town. And I met him, this Steve Kramer character, 3 years ago on my way into Miami. He was also in the street with this guy who I've known for many years. So at this point, he comes in and he is in an RV, and he travels around and he tells me he works in the political world and he has done stuff for Biden and the Clintons and Kanye, and he also does local municipalities. He does all this different stuff, and he's known for doing signatures and for doing surveys, asking people to go door to door, knock, canvassing, all of those things. That's what his company is known for doing. This is what I'm told. At the time, he doesn't have a place to stay, so he's in the second room at the place that we're staying at my friend's, rental. And so about, he comes in and out. He travels out of town. He comes back. He goes here. He goes there, and all the while doing campaigning. From all I know. Meanwhile, I'm just working at this place, doing the website and doing the social media. About a month and a half to 2 months into this, the owner says, "Hey, yeah, I don't have any money, bro." My friend says, "I don't have any money." So now I'm like running around looking for odd jobs here and odd jobs there, make a website here, maybe make some social media for somebody, whatever, anything. And then I go to a Thanksgiving party at Steve's house. This is Steve Kramer. And I'm at the party, and I get there early, and he's like, "Yo, help me out, throw some these paintings I have, tack them in. Some people are showing up, help me out, carry some, yeah, no problem." And he throws me like $50. I'm like, "Yeah, then he's like, "Yeah, whatever, just go." And I'm like, "All right, cool, whatever." So then we're at the party, we're all hanging out, and I'm telling people, "Yeah, I've been making these crazy trailer-style movie trailers where you can make anything you want." And they're like, "Well, that's crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, look, I can use anybody's voice." And he's like, "Oh, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, can you make Lindsey Graham's voice?" And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm working with him." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." So I go outside, I'm smoking a cigarette. 5, 10 minutes later, I walk back in, and I've got Lindsey Graham saying some vulgar stuff about, I don't know, sucking penis or something. I don't know. I said something like that, and I walk straight up to Steve and I push play, and he's like, he just lights up and he starts laughing. He's just like totally amazed at what he's seeing, And he takes my phone and we throw my phone around to everybody. They all hear it. Everybody laughs. "Oh my God, that's hilarious." And that's the end of the joke. No big deal. And then about a week or so, week and a half later, he texts me. He's like, "Yo, man, can you do that again?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." She's like, "I want to see if we can do this instead of going to recording studios and having to record these guys. It'd be so much easier to do this if I had the ad copy and they agreed to it and they like the recording. What's the difference?" I was like, "Fucking agree to that shit." And I was like, "If you could pay me 150, 250 bucks every time you do it, I'm doing great." He's like, "Yeah, no problem." And I'm like, "Great, no problem." So he's like, "Here's the ad copy." Sends me something in the email. I copy it. I go to the website. I literally paste it in, push generate, walk away, and I go to a website. I'm watching YouTube. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm whatever. I go back to the page. It says download. I download. I go back over. I send it over to him, and that's that. About, I don't know, a week later, he's like, "No, they want to change the thing. They like it, but can we do this?" So I was like, "Okay, no problem," because here's the ad copy. Sends me some other ad copy, which is the same thing. I think he just added some numbers to for the questionnaire. Like, number 1 is this, number 2 is this, number 3 is this. That's what it looked like. And instead of having like 4 or 5 numbers, I think I had 6 or 7 numbers. That's something to that effect. And all I did, copy, paste, download later, deliver, get paid. And then so about a week later, or a week and a half later, I text him and I'm like, "Hey, man, what are we doing?" And he's like, "Oh, no, we're going to use the studio, or going to the recording studio," I think is what he said, something to that said. And I go, fuck. So at least I said that to myself, where I was like, "Oh, man, I lost a bag. I thought I was going to make some money here,
Yeah.
And then nothing.
Were you being, just let me, if I could jump in here just for a brief interjection, and kind of important question. I'm sure a lot of people out there listening are wondering about, thinking themselves. Were you at any point told or informed as to what this was all for? If whether it was just
Yeah,
for like a
and I
prank
thought I mentioned that
or
to you. Yeah. So the idea was, so Steve has this company. It could save him a lot of money instead of having to pay for a senator or a whoever's running for whatever race. The rental of a studio or the rental of some sound equipment to get the person to do it in a thing cost him a certain amount of money. And if you could do it this way, obviously it's much cheaper and it's faster, um, because there's less people to go through. Obviously, there's less hassle. There's less waiting on the person to have time to record it. There's less, all of the things. So that's what I was told. So I went for it. No problem, dude. Whatever you need. But is that it? You want me to keep moving or?
oh, just so long as we're clear that I'm sure,
Yeah.
because there
Yeah.
is a multi-state I guess investigation at present, but
Right.
apparently you're not in anyone's sights at the moment. They've
I
sort
mean,
of they've got bigger
because
fish to
from
fry.
what I'm understanding from everybody that I've talked to, I didn't do anything. All I did was create a piece of media, and then somebody else took that media after paying me,
Right,
and then they distributed it. They had malicious intent,
right.
obviously, with now and this is the last one, obviously. And unfortunately, the other two that I created were used as, or at least one of those two were used as well.
Lindsey,
Which I
you're talking
did.
about Lindsey Graham with just
Yeah,
kind of the
there's a Lindsay,
satire or
no, there's a Lindsay
spoof.
and robocall somewhere out there as
Oh,
well.
I see. The first edit.
Right. One of those is out there as well. And I only found out about this after I searched it, knowing that I had made
Hmm.
and I spoke
Yeah.
to the first
Yeah.
reporter, and that's when I see that there was something with a robocall and also him, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Because from all accounts that I had, it was, I'm going to show it to them as a test to show them, like, yo, look at this cool new technology. Look at how fast we can get out, these informationals or this whatever. And as long as you approve the thing and you approve the recording, then boom, we're live. Let's
Yeah,
go.
and
So you
just to
send
let
them.
listeners know as well,
Yeah,
Paul, we are going to be sharing some audio visual, just some media that has been
sure.
making the rounds that highlights what you're talking about here. The exposure that you've picked up and the story has as well to this point. So we'll choose the appropriate time throughout the course of the approximate 90-minute live stream to do that. And for anyone who's just dropped in and are themselves wondering what uh, they found, they're currently listening to, this is in fact our exclusive uh, conversation and interview with Paul David Carpenter regarding something I had only just heard about when he, in fact, drew it to our attention. What was that? It was a couple days ago. He teased us with something that was going to be, breaking. You weren't able at that point to really spell it all out for us, but you did emphasize that it would be a lot more of a scoop than what has been among our biggest stories to this point, and that, of course, is the whole James Heydrich business, and he himself, a well-known magician back an illusionist from the 80s. But yeah, this is episode 322, a number that will resonate with some people who who take note of these sort of things. the Biden AI robocall scandal, and now from what we're hearing, essentially I guess we just qualify as a mea culpa.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's the proper Latin or not in this instance, but certainly, would you regard is this a confession on your part, or more just a chance to clear the air, I suppose? But
Yeah,
322,
yeah,
Paul. Does that number mean anything to you? I'm sure it does. A few of our
yeah.
listeners,
Well,
and
yeah, I'm sure it does.
Skull and Bones
Yeah,
three two
exactly.
two. Let me just we have a few people in the peanut gallery end of things as well too. Should give them a
That's
shout out.
awesome.
Truth Cult,
Sure.
Strange Stories, and Martin Taylor. Martin out of the UK, so he's up pretty early. This go round, we appreciate him dropping in. He's no stranger to the show. Of course, I think Strange Stories we've seen in the past as well, uh, one or two occasions. So I'm not sure if that's actually one of Zeke uh, Zeke's socks. This is a friend of ours from Belgab. Actually, he comes in with all these wacky uh, uh, account handles. Roger Hansen. There we go. Thank you, Roger. So and Truth Cult as well too. So any of you, along with the lurkers out there, have yet to sign in, we do encourage everyone to do so. Of course, whether through D Live, Twitter, AKX, uh, YouTube, or Facebook, by all means, have at it. We always uh, happy to hear from listeners. You can in fact call in as well too. Let us know if you'd like to reach out to uh, Paul and maybe you know bounce a few questions off of him here in the live streaming Skype chat. Pirate One Radio at gmail.com is how you go about doing that. Just look for Captain Sinclair and we'll have you on board at least for a couple of minutes. But yeah, so where were we then? 322 Skull and Bones. That's just a coincidence,
Hmm.
though, of course. Uh,
Or is it? Or
yeah,
is it?
yeah.
So yeah, if you want me to continue a bit more from that point,
Flesh it out. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
In essence, the first two times that I did the edits over those 2 weeks, where he said, no, we need it longer, or the tonality needs to be this, or like those kind of things, or whatever kind of edits, I didn't think anything of it. I just thought trying to make it better to show to the Lindsey Graham team or whoever he's working for, so that they could approve whatever I was making. And in my side, I was like, good, this is a cool gig. Like you got to admit that would be kind of cool. Like, you know, getting to do that for a lot of different political parties. That would be cool. I'm not even doing anything. That's the worst part. It's like, what am I doing? I'm literally copying and pasting. And as far as getting the sound or the audio, it's find a recording of anything, any person, and just copy it and put the recording in, and there you go. So it's not like there's some kind of magic to it. It's not that hard. And so I end up doing it. And then when he says, no, we're using the studio, I'm like, well, wherever that goes that. And then once again, a week and a half later, he says, hey, can you do this one? I was like, send me the ad copy, paste, boom, boom, record, copy, download, boom, done. I don't even fucking look at it. The only thing that I saw in there was the beginning, because I haven't even heard the whole thing. I don't think, maybe 2-3 times. And the thing that always got me, and even when I looked at the copy, when I pasted it, was the word malarkey was the only thing that got me. Because I didn't read the whole thing, and I don't care about politics really in the end of it all. To me, it was like a Fiverr gig or a people per hour gig. Somebody was paying me $150 to use something. He didn't have the time to do it, nor the knowledge how to do it. He was willing to throw me the money. It's the same guy that threw me $50 to put up a couple paintings in his house. The same guy who paid me $300 to put in a jacuzzi in his backyard with a telehandler. So, you know, I didn't look at it like anything else other than another thing I had, you know, that he needed me to do while I was running around. You know, so that's how that happened. Then after I do the Biden thing, I don't hear from him for 2 or 3 days. And then I get a text message that just says, shh, which is just S with a bunch of H's.
Ah.
And then a link to the article. The first article, I think, came out on the 27th and 28th. And this is last month.
Okay, and what were have we seen that article? I don't think we've seen that one yet. Which is,
I don't know if you haven't. I'll get you a link to it, but it's the original article from Alex, who's the guy who wrote the article. And if you just click on his name, it goes to his page and it has all the articles he's ever written.
Oh, he's the NBC reporter.
MSNBC guy, yeah, that's him. So
okay.
he's the one who broke the story, right, about the whole thing.
Oh.
And so at this point, I see that, and my first response in text within, I think, half of a second or a minute is GTHOOF, or get the fuck out of here is what I wrote, right. You know? And then I immediately call him, and I'm like, bro, what the fuck is going on? He's like, oh, ha, 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 ha. Don't worry about it. I spoofed the call from some other person's number. Don't, you know, it's no big deal.
Yeah. Do you know spoofed the call from another person's number? Do you know who that was? What person that actually was?
So when he told me, he said he did this thing on purpose, that he used this one woman's number on purpose because he knew that she would be the one to get the call.
She's the central figure. She's the central figure with, regarding the whole mail-in ballot end of things, as far as I believe just New Hampshire itself is concerned, perhaps, or nationwide.
So for him, because he's a Democrat, from what I understand, so but he doesn't like her, or she doesn't like him, something to that effect. And so he did it on purpose with her.
To set her up, basically, it sounds like, make her look bad.
No. From what I understand, it's because he wanted her to hear it. That's what he wanted, so that she would then raise the alarm and freak out. Why she was going to raise the alarm and freak out, I guess, is because of the recording. And so then, you know, immediately. And then next is that it's a robocall, and that's illegal. Or those are illegal. So I think that's what he wanted that to go off. For sure. Because that's what he said to me on that call. At which point he says, don't worry about it. Just delete all the emails and act like nothing happened. So for 2 weeks, and then I'm just rolling around on YouTube watching videos, and I see something, robocall, 50 attorney generals, 2 subpoenas, Texas company. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I immediately go to that article. I'm watching. I'm like, what is going on? And I see, I immediately go on Twitter and I text Edward Snowden. Like, dude, what do I do? I swear to God, I'll show you the Twitter message if you want.
Did he get back to you?
No, of course not. Yeah. But I mean, I'm over here freaking out. Like, well, I don't know what to do. So then I start trying to find out, like, who's the original reporter. Because I was like, I'm going to talk to that person, because they must have most information out of everybody, because they've been, obviously reporting on this. So I run to that person, and for 2 days, I'm sending him messages on Twitter, trying to send him emails, and I'm like, yo, dude, I'm the guy who made the recordings for the robocall. And he's like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, no, bro, here's the emails, or not the emails, but here's the text messages, here's the original recording. I'll do whatever you want, dude. Let's just talk it out. I got to, And he's like, I'll be in, New Orleans in a couple days. And I'm like, all right. And I had just come back from Cancun, where I was trying to make a website for somebody who was supposed to pay me. They never paid me. And then I came back from Cancun to do a show that I had here in New Orleans.
Damn.
So
you went all the way to Cancun for a job that you ended up not getting paid on.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up staying there for a month. I ended up paying for it myself out of my own pocket, unfortunately. And it wasn't a full, it was, I think, 3.5 weeks. It was nice. It was nice to be in another country and be in Cancun. I got to go to Playa del Carmen. It was cool, but at the same time, it also sucked because the whole time I'm thinking that I'm going to be walking away with money and I'm going to be having some things. I totally got screwed at the end. So, although I still have the website and I have all the content and everything's in my name, so they really got screwed because they don't have a website. But anybody can make a website, if they truly want to. Where were we? So I come back, I do the gig, and I wait. 2 weeks later, the 50 attorney generals. There's and I talk to Alex. He flies in. I do an 8-hour interview with him, which turns into like a minute and a half. And I was like, wow. And this article, which was a damn good article in the end, but a lot of the parts of the article sound very misleading. Like I said at the beginning, a Democrat, read the beginning again. That first MSNBC title that we were talking about at the beginning of when we were doing the recording or this interview.
Right. You wanted the headline. Okay.
Yeah,
New Orleans magician says a Democrat operative, more like a deep state
Democrat
swamp creature.
operative.
Deep state swamp creature is what I probably would have written. But anyways, paid him to make the fake Biden robocall.
Right. So then there's no robocall involved. There's only a recording that I did. I never knew that it was going to become a robocall. So that's the first part, or last parts that are misleading. The first part is Democratic. What's the actual wording here?
Operative.
Operative. Democratic operative. No, dude. The guy is a 20-year industry guy who works for both the Republican and Democrats and sells his, people knocking on doors or people asking for signatures or people doing surveys on the phone. That's what he does.
Yeah, he's like a strategist of sorts, but also a gun for hire.
Yeah, gun for hire, consultant strategist. That's the best way to put it. And so when he said, but I don't know if I mentioned this, at the first part of this whole thing, it was all about I don't want to work for Biden. He's trying to court me, and I don't want to work for him because unless he allows me to work both sides of the aisle. And he said that repeatedly to me.
This is what Kramer told you.
Yeah,
that
100%.
Biden was working on courting him, buttering him up,
or whatever. And then he told me that the house that he's living in was a Biden given to him through the deal that he had made.
A Biden safe house. Sure.
Basically what he said was that, all the big campaigns have houses all over the place. And real estate everywhere. And this is just one of those places, like New Orleans is one of those states where they want to have the votes, Democratic specifically, and they have a couple locations here for people when they're working on campaigns.
Right. Before you continue any further, Paul, let me just cut in here one more time. We have some breaking news, actually. Welcome to Joshua Allen Huckle via Facebook. Always great to see you, Joshua. He's actually sharing some information with us, presumably unrelated to what we're discussing. But that being the case, that there's said to be another balloon now over Arkansas, with reports of it having a cube of some sorts hanging from it. I hope that's not some sort of electro pulse weapon, or, you know, just, use your imagination, right? But yeah, so some breaking news that Joshua is sharing with us here, reminiscent of what occurred several months ago, last year, when this this Chinese balloon, and this may be another one, as far as have yet to look into the particulars, but they could very well be claiming that it's just another one of those, the waylaid CCP, not spy, don't, nothing to get too excited about, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Uh, but simply, yeah, weather balloon. And what a terrible way to spy, anyways. It makes you think there'd be more sophisticated means and ways of going about doing things. But all right, just felt we had to, because of it's it's
I'm sorry. Can
breaking
I just
in
say,
the moment. I'm sorry. Go
Jeffy,
ahead.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but can I say, when that happened here in the United States, the weather Chinese balloon that they shot down in the end or whatever, I was like, what is the stupidest thing I've ever seen? What year are we living in? Like, what is going on? And how did China, like, stratosphere balloon? What are you talking about? To get images of cows in Wisconsin or wherever it was? Like, what?
Yeah,
It made no sense whatsoever.
it's total psyop, really, is what it would seem, more than anything, a real head scratcher. So, anyways, but
But then again, like something like this, like what happened with me, it totally feels like a psyop as well.
oh, big
Like
time.
this,
Joey Boomer. Well, hey, great to see you, Joey. It's been a while. We've been wondering how you've been doing, and it's good to know you're still alive and kicking. Obviously, we were even thinking of actually calling you just the other day. So, uh, really great you managed to connect here. Uh, a fellow expat, actually, one of the, we've got a handful of expats via South Korea who do join us here from time to time. And yes, for those of you out there wondering, listening in, we do live stream via the Korean Peninsula. This is where uh, World Pirate Radio Central is located. Uh, truth be told, so it's just a great little, the Skullport Harbor, uh, the the kind of hideaway that every meta modern pirate dreams of course. So Zane Ivy, hey, speak of the devil, yet another Korea-based expat. Both he and Joey originally uh, via the U.S. Replying to Joshua, just stand by here one second, Paul. Today's the celebration of Milarepa's Mahasamadhi. What did Joshua say? I don't understand the context of that one. Must have missed something. Oh, is that it? Maybe he's trying to make a joke regarding the balloon over Arkansas. But Milarepa was a famous Tibetan saint, as it were. So Maha Samadhi, the great awakening, I guess, really is what I guess that refers to. But anyways, okay. So back to the story at hand. This exclusive with Paul David Carpenter. Uh, what a web of intrigue. This is it. Just
yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. The whole thing was crazy. The whole thing has
now,
been crazy. I'm in the middle of it. Like, I'm in the middle of the storm right now. It just started.
Yeah, and you have been, and thank you so much once again. We are really very appreciative and, I guess in some ways in your debt. Although all
Not at all.
all
Not at all.
honesty, like the truth is, we have been sort of, um, working together, just engaging in the best quality conversation in a live streaming context that we're able to, while inviting others to join in and be a part of things here over the past number of months, whether talking about magic or the state of things currently in Palestine and Gaza and beyond, of course, or any number of
Which is why I
issues.
came to you, by the way, Jeffy. This is like immediately. You were one of the people that I wanted to talk to about this
James
because
Heydrich, the magician, James
you know,
Heydrich, yeah.
yeah. But that's why I came to you.
Oh, really appreciative,
Because
man. Really, thank you so much.
because
It's really, really
because you have so many these people that have so many different points of views,
right.
that are willing to talk and be gentlemen to each other. I haven't seen any women on, so not to be,
We've got one coming up next week, as a matter of fact, now that you mention it.
that's
So
awesome. That's great.
stay
So that's great.
tuned, folks. Stand.
So funny that I mentioned that because I'm not trying to be, what is it called?
It is a bit of a sausage fest, I must admit. Yeah.
But
It'd be great to see a little more
saying.
taco action.
Okay. But you see what I'm saying, right? I wasn't trying.
Oh, God.
I wasn't trying to be
Sorry. Hey,
misogynist.
we do try to keep this as family friendly as possible, but maybe have Little Wonder D Live refuses to give us. We just have that kind of moderate rating, and that's about it. We can't get family friendly, so maybe understandably why that.
One day.
Yeah.
One day.
But you got to watch the F bombs, though, dude. Well, I was just gonna say, just having. We're on the topic of one complimentary F bomb. We are pirates after all. But after that, it's 10 doubloons to the pirate potty mouth swear jar.
Oh, no.
And half of everything that we do manage to generate, let's not forget, throughout the course of the year, goes directly back to charity, typically within the context of Operation Secret Santa, this campaign that we have. Stand by. Just stand by. We have a caller, actually. Shit, have I done this right now? No, maybe not. Oh, son of a gun. We might have lost. Robert, try that one more time. Everything went dead there. Just, I tell you, when it rains, it pours. So, yeah. One more reason why we were just this desperate plea for a quality tech producer. If you can tell it's a real Bush League operation, no doubt about that. But what can you do? The limited funds and resources. Now, I'm not sure, you maybe didn't see that picture of that individual there. But that's the senator he's actually running as a competitor to Biden, and he's been taking a lot of heat now too, because they are implicating him in this whole debacle. Now we'll have to get his name. Bloody hell! Do you know who I'm talking about? Because
one more time of who?
Now he's a senator. Is he out of New Hampshire? We had it actually. Son of a gun.
What happened?
Hang on a second. Hang on. There's a few notes that we made here. So, Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips is such a effing loser. He broke several laws to hire someone that's Kramer, of course, to make robocalls imitating Joe Biden, telling New Hampshire voters not to vote. So Dean Phillips.
So I don't know why people are. This is a weird thing to me, right? Because I didn't know about Dean Phillips
until 2 days ago or 3 days ago, when after I talked to Alex. Alex was the one who's like, "Oh yeah, he works for Dean Phillips," and I'm like, "Who's fucking Dean Phillips?" He's like, "Oh, he's running for president." I'm like, "He is? I've never heard of the guy." He's like, "Yeah, nobody has."
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's a really rich guy who's really trying and he really cares, but he just doesn't have backing. He just doesn't have the thing behind him, whatever it is.
Okay. All
And
right.
it's kind of hard when you have a senile one guy who can't even walk up the stairs way when they're pointing the direction in which way he's supposed to go. Or another guy who's so crazy and outlandish and just on edge that everybody's freaking out, not knowing if he's going to be tyrannical or if he was a joking. Just kidding. Who knows? And those are the two best options we've got.
Well, and that's the thing is everyone forgets about that there's a third.
There is?
You're not aware of this?
Swami?
No. He's a Republican. There's someone who's running as an independent, making some serious headway.
Who's that?
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
You think that he's making headway? He's not. Nobody cares.
Oh,
Nobody
well,
cares.
I tell you what, there are all the individual gentlemen we've just actually welcomed to the conversation. I think this is someone who I do believe you've crossed paths with.
Not trying to be rude.
No, but hang on. Robert Morningstar is actually just connected with us here through Skype. So I believe he was someone who would care to differ with that particular statement. Kennedy is making headway. Welcome, Robert. Are you managing to get up to speed on what's taking place here within the context of this break-in exclusive?
Are you talking about the Chinese balloon?
No, that's another. We'll save that for our, this upcoming segment of World Pirate Radio News.
Or the Robocop call.
Well, yeah, and that's why we have Paul on board tonight, because of his role in things, actually.
Well, I think it's a weird thing, and obviously meant to sabotage. There seems to be like 3 phone calls bouncing around here. Anyway,
you want to mute? You want to turn your speakers down? I don't know. You're not really a headphones kind of guy. You want to turn your speakers down and point them away from each other, because we were getting some feedback just as you first came on there with a kind of delay echo.
I was already logged on because I called you up and then you called me a second time.
I know I messed up just with the bringing you on board. So
well, that's a very strange. Getting back to the subject of the robocall.
Go ahead. Robert?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, you know what's happening? I'm hearing your broadcast on YouTube.
Well, you have to turn.
Yeah,
it
I just turned it down.
There you go.
I don't know what the hell's going on there. So now we're back in sync.
Okay.
Yeah. The purpose of the robocall, obviously, to dissuade people from going to vote for Trump as a protest. That's what I took from it.
Okay.
We weren't telling anybody to vote for anyone in particular, but dissuading people from voting would have. Everybody knew that Trump was going to win that, and he hammered Nikki Haley. I don't know why that chicken hawk is even in the race. She's hopeless. And the other part that's strange about Nikki Haley is that the Democrats are funding her campaign.
You're kidding.
No, the Democrats are funding Nikki Haley's campaign and keeping her in the running against President Trump. Just to have a stooge in there, so he doesn't run away with.
Yeah, she's the bad.
Paul?
Yeah. Make sure,
totally
Robert,
agree.
Robert, one more time, just if you could turn your speakers down and point them away from each other, because we are
I don't have
getting.
speakers. I don't have speakers. I only have a monitor.
Uh-oh. So if you could just turn it down, that would be helpful, because just the audio delay loop that I'm hearing of my own voice coming to you from the other side of the world here. Delay fashion. But
I'm hearing us. Hold on. Okay.
Go ahead. We might be good now. It's fine. This is having smooth things over audio wise. Paul, the two of you have met each other in the past. I'm pretty sure we had you on a call or two back over the Christmas campaign.
I think once last year we were on the same show. I recall.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hey,
right.
So how are you doing, Paul? What do you think was the purpose of the robocall?
Okay, so I was going to ask you, because I don't speculate much on politics. As I was saying earlier, I'm not a big politics guy. I don't get into the minutia of it all.
You're a professional. You're a professional magician.
I think that's what my conclusion was. If somebody was calling robocalls to tell people not to go to vote, was to quash the vote for Trump, which they knew would be overwhelming.
So how does that work then exactly?
It could be like that, because the robocall was supposedly, from what I understand, and once again, I've only heard it a couple times, but basically to the extent of Biden saying something to the effect of it's malarkey and save your vote for the election. Yeah. Which is in a couple months.
We've got it queued up here, Paul. We've got it queued up and ready to go, so we can share it anytime you're ready. We can let people hear exactly.
Play it.
Okay.
Yeah, play it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
So, all right, because it's a bit of a head scratcher. Definitely a real web of intrigue here, no doubt about it. While we're working on doing this, is there anything more than that either of you would care to comment on or contribute?
Again, my thing is, I just want to know what would go through somebody's head to do this. Like, I'm in the same boat. Like, if like, why? What do you get out of it? Like, what are you trying to create to get more?
It's election interference. It's clearly election interference. Who it stands to benefit the most is that's up to debate, really. Mm-hmm. Now it's interesting the angle that Robert's presented. I'd considered that myself as well. That working to sabotage and undermine Trump's his place within the upcoming election.
It's the only conclusion for me, because Biden wasn't even, and there was no Democrat. He boycotted New Hampshire. Has always been the first in the nation,
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party, not this year. Iowa, Iowa caucuses, I think, are always the first. But there was no Democrat.
Dean Phillips, though, here's the thing. Have you heard of Dean Phillips, Robert? Are you aware? Here's rolling things.
Yeah, I like Dean Phillips. I think he's a very courageous guy.
Do you know how he's implicated within the context of what's currently unfolding?
Not at all.
Paul, fill him in a little bit on as far as you're aware of that.
Dean Phillips. Okay, because and I was on an interview with Chris Cuomo today, where he attacked Dean Phillips.
Stay in your lane, Chris. Stay in your beeping lane.
And he said, how could you do this? Blah, 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 blah. And the reason why is because his campaign paid $270,000 to this guy that paid me a couple $100.
Got $150.
Dean Phillips. So you're saying Dean Phillips paid for the robocall?
There's no proof of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's really strange.
There's no real proof of that, of course, but I mean, and that's what everybody is trying to say and do.
Oh, I think it's a smear.
That's why,
I think that's
right, and that's why. And that's why I said I believe that the main title that Alex wrote is so misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not those things. It's a guy who works both sides of the aisle, who has a company who knocks on doors for people on both sides of the aisle, from the smallest to the largest types of campaigns.
Mm-hmm.
He does 200 to 400 supposedly every 2 to 4 years of people that he, all different types of campaigns, has teams everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's a political operative. He's a hatchet man, maybe, or an operative strategist. And to find,
and his company's called Get Out the Vote or something like that.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Get Out the Vote. It's been around a while.
It has.
But from what you've told me, and the late Chris Cuomo, as I like to refer to him, the late Chris Cuomo, being the point man for this attack, I think it's a smear job. I'd like to comment on the ridiculousness of the South Carolina vote, where they said that that Biden won 98% of the vote in South Carolina. It's just a coincidence that just a week before, Richard Hoagland, or even that weekend, Richard Hoagland was having a program and arguing that AI might be used to steal the election. So I said, AI was already used to steal the election in South Carolina. And my reasoning is this, that in the one previous election in which Biden and Dean Phillips appeared, not counting the lesser, percentages of Marianne Williamson and, other unknowns, Dean Phillips got 22% to Biden's 62%. Okay, so if you add 62 and 22, you get 84. So 22% of 84, that's a quarter of the vote. So I can't see how Biden could go into South Carolina and win 98% of the vote. That's totally bogus. It's as if Dean Phillips didn't exist, but he did pull 22% in the previous election. So I think the scummy Democrat rigged election machine is already working and practicing for November.
And you're right. And so RFK Jr., what do you think the chances are that they're going to try to pull, the same similar type tactics to be deployed as far as he's concerned?
Well, they've already tried to neutralize.
They're trying to sue him.
Well, good luck. He's running as an independent, and there are still rumors. There's still rumors around that Trump may pull a rabbit out of a hat and have a Kennedy-Trump ticket.
Right.
Even if he doesn't do that, and Robert Kennedy does run, it's estimated that he's going to pull 22% of the Democrat vote. And on top of that, Biden has lost about 25 to 30% of the male black vote. That's another thing that everybody is ignoring. That's why I can't believe that he could win 98% of the vote in South Carolina. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, here's the thing that Hoagland is exactly correct and right on the mark. AI in conjunction with these phony, rigged, electronic, so-called voting machines and technology that has been used for quite a few years now that can be hacked. It's been proven beyond a shadow of doubt. Under a minute.
But Hoagland is a Trump hater.
60 seconds.
Hoagland is a Trump hater, and what he was trying to set up was that Trump is going to use AI to steal the election.
Trump, only
he still
Trump,
believes that Biden won a fair election. This is why he and I are estranged. We're friends, but we're estranged on politics. He's the opposite.
And we've got to be careful what we say here, or the algorithm, God only knows, God forbid, it's going to issue. We're going to get hammered via YouTube because how dare you question
about the election?
the legitimacy of this certified election. It was certified. Oh, you know, and it's like, my God, this is, you know, it's the same as with the kill shots, of course, and just so many other issues that it's like man-made climate change. You can add to the list the official, authoritative, the mainstream narrative, and the gaslighting that goes along with that.
Hey, what happened to Paul? I was looking forward to speaking to him more.
About it. He'll be back. He'll be back.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's been doing interviews all day.
Oh,
actually, in a whole, you know, various. He's been on the phone all day. Maybe his phone's out of.
Maybe it's low battery or.
Yeah.
Take a rest.
Could be.
Anyway, it was enjoyable.
No. He'll be back. I'm sure he'll be back. Check it. I've got something to queue up here though for everybody. Robert.
Oh yeah, the call. Let's hear the call.
Yeah, let's get that up and running. This is one reason we really, unfortunately, we'd love to have a professional technical producer on hand and able to handle these things, like, you know, so many other operations do, but just we do what we can here and keep plugging away. So let's see. This should nonetheless give people more or less an approximate sense of things. Quite something, all courtesy.
I've heard a lot about it, but I haven't heard the actual call.
Well, this is a good. This is a fair chunk of what was put together. Here we go.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
Listeners are able to hear it. Just you can't at the moment. Stand by.
2 now.
You have to share a screen for me to hear.
Yeah, that's right. So we'll run that by. I guess let's run that by you one more time. Okay. Son of a gun. Okay, yeah, it's because of this new call and bloody Skype. It's you know, pros and cons. So hopefully this we'll run it by you one more time here, and just let us know if you can hear this or not. You should be able to. So, what a bunch of malarkey. That's quite authentic. Here we go.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
So did you get it that time, Robert?
Yeah, I got it that time. That's very curious because, as I said, you know, after you mentioned that Chris Cuomo came out attacking Dean Phillips, I said, you know, that's a smear. But the other smear would be to insinuate that this was Trump doing this to pin the tail on the donkey, Biden. Very curious. But save your vote for November?
Right. How does that work then with the U.S., the electoral system, have the primaries, of course?
Well, here's the deal. In some states, they have open primaries where people can cross over so that if a Democrat doesn't like Biden, he could cast his vote for Trump. In other states, they are closed primaries. New York used to be an open primary. And I, as an independent, used to vote, you know, pick and choose. And one year I might vote for a Republican, or next year for a good Democrat, if anything like that still exists. I voted for John Lindsay. I thought he was a fine mayor. But be that as it may, when Ron Paul was running for president, the Republicans in New York changed the rules so that only Republicans could vote in the Republican primary. which forced me to leave independence in name, so that I could vote in that primary. So I think that New Hampshire may be one of those open primary states, and by keeping Democrat voters away from the polls, would keep them from voting for Trump and making the margin even higher, unbeating Nikki Haley.
So with these open primaries, once again, that Democrats can actually vote as Republicans. Then, if they can re-register as Republicans. Yeah, but that's it. Once they've done that, they're finished. They can't vote in for the actual.
No. They could change their mind.
But he's saying save your vote. You can only do it once. He's saying save your vote.
You have a vote in the primary, and you have a vote in the general election. And as we know, some Democrats have 3 votes in primaries when they bust them around and go, as they did in Michigan the last election. They bust people around from one district to another. And,
Oh, okay. So this is just something for me. It's a little tricky to get my head wrapped around, as I'm sure it is a few others. But once again, why then is he saying, just to be clear, I'm sure you save your vote. Why is he saying that? Why is that so important?
It's just misleading. It doesn't save your vote. You just throw your vote away. Save your vote from voting for the other guy. But the other, it's 2 possible smears. One, we talked about Chris Cuomo coming out and attacking Dean Phillips. I don't think Dean Phillips did that. The other insinuation is that Trump would do it as a dirty trick. But it's kind of a lose-lose situation. It shows the desperation of whoever put that out to prevent people from voting. That's election, as you said, it's election interference.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Clear and simple.
Yeah.
It should be investigated. They should find out exactly who was behind it and what their purpose was. But we can only guess. And my guess is that they wanted to stop a crossover vote. Like I said, 30% of the black vote, 25 to 30, depending on which poll. That's rather significant, because in the last election, Biden got 90% of the vote. And I see more and more YouTubes with, really intelligent black men. Primarily, I don't see any black women extolling the virtues of having Donald Trump in the White House. But a lot of black men have switched over to Trump. As a matter of fact, CNN went to the Bronx, into one of the most Bronx.
Yeah, sure.
And to ask if they would attend a Trump rally if Trump spoke in the Bronx. And they were expecting, no, I'd never go to a Trump rally. And everybody is saying, yeah, if Trump came, all these African Americans, yeah, if he came to the Bronx, I'd go, sure. And, CNN wound up with a lot of egg on his face because it was showing how many African Americans have seen, have seen the plot against them. And I'm just going to talk freely about this plot. And I've told my African American friends very plainly, the reason that the Democrats are flooding the United States with illegal immigrants is to bump African Americans out of the economy. And I'll tell you right now, in New York, I have seen scores of jobs with Africans and Muslims replacing what would have been African Americans doing the same jobs.
Probably South Americans as well too.
Yes, I went to a Chinese restaurant and the staff were all Central Americans. Yeah. So I had a really good time speaking Chinese and speaking Spanish in that restaurant. But I'll tell you this, more and more Africans are getting the jobs, delivering pizza, delivering food, working in stores. And I'll tell you, they are cheerful, they are courteous, they are helpful, They're happy to be working,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't give you the surly, obstructive. Remember, Obama said white people are too comfortable, and you have to upset their comfort zone.
Oh, really?
Well, a lot of them started doing that, especially during the last 3 years, and it's really a stark contrast when you deal in a store with an African migrant who's gotten the job, and they're cheerful, they're helpful, they're courteous, and they're happy. So
it's just so toxic. That is just so toxic with the things that, even during, what was it? Not his acceptance speech, but
inauguration,
inaugural address. Yeah, that totally discriminatory, and then with respect, like he's disenfranchising, all Caucasians clear across the board, where they weren't just left out as far as his taking the time to acknowledge and to sing the praises of, but quite the contrary, where it's just continually, in his mind at least, all these extreme right-wing, angry, religious, white fundamentalists that
right.
really were, his number one top priority, it seemed, as far as domestic terrorism was concerned. So,
well,
it's crazy.
Jeffy, let's not pull any punches here. The goal of the New World Order, the global communist assault, is to wipe out Caucasian civilization.
Kalergi plan.
The Kalergi plan. And I'm very proud to be the person in 2016 who published the first article exposing the Kalergi plan. I was contacted by an Irish firebrand. His name is Patrick O'Carroll. And he wrote to me and he said, "Do you know about the Kalergi plan?" I said, "No, what?" And he said, "The Kalergi plan was hatched in the 1920s. And the purpose of it is to get rid of the white race and white culture, because Richard Coudenhove Kalergi wrote a book called Practical Idealism, which is also called Pan-Europa. It was that concept, his concept, that to create a Pan-European Union, you had to get rid of national borders, national identity, and ethnic identity, and that you would have to force the intermarriage of Asiatics, and he used the word Negroid races, meaning African races, to force the intermarriage of Asiatics and Africans with Caucasians to extinguish pure white bread, if you pardon the expression. So listen to this. If you understand that this book came out in 1923, you understand why Hitler hated communism, because Hitler loved Germanic culture and Germanic values. So when he read Practical Idealism, written by a half Jew, half Japanese
Freemason.
Yes, indeed. He said, these people are out to destroy my people, and we have to stop them. So that will go a long way in explaining the reason why Hitler started a crusade against communism. As a matter of fact, you know, the last chief rabbi of Israel, who passed away about 3 or 4 years ago, he said he'd read Mein Kampf. And the reason that Hitler hated Jews was because he hated communism. And Jews, for the most part, were the proponents of global communism. So that's what we're up against. We're up against communism.
Communism
has molted into a lot of different factions and disguises.
Yeah, apparently in America now, it's largely the left-wing so-called progressives, largely dominated by crypto Trotskyites.
Yep, exactly. So I heard Colonel McGregor you know, Colonel Douglas McGregor,
Yes.
warning us about this plan to draw us into a war with Iran. And he said an amazing thing. He said all of Washington is in league with Israel because Netanyahu has more power in Washington than Biden does. And as far as I'm concerned, Netanyahu is destroying the Jewish people. Not just Israelis, Jewish people around the world are suffering because of what he's been doing. And the International Court of Justice has, declared him guilty of genocide. And nothing could be more obvious.
What can be done about it, though? I mean, so what? It's great that, I mean, I shouldn't say so what. It's great that they've gone so far, through the process of things to reach that conclusion. It seems pretty obvious to most, but what's the next step? What's actually going to materialize then, as far as holding that psychopathic bastard accountable? He is someone who I think presumably you and I are on the same page here where it comes to Netanyahu. Really, I mean, who, as with any major crime, you ask yourself the first question typically people investigating should be asking themselves is cui bono, who stands to benefit. Netanyahu was facing extreme pressure on the domestic front for quite some time, and then suddenly
he had a million people were demonstrating against him weekly all across Israel. So to hold on to power, he allowed this attack to happen. We know now that he knew the plan Mossad knew the plan a year ahead. And then in the month before the attack unfolded, they disabled the artificial intelligence network that they had. They had 3 balloons that were always permanently floating over that border near the settlement, and with surveillance cameras on the whole region where Hamas approached with a tractor. Do you know how slow a tractor moves, right? So they also Israeli soldiers who had manned it said, this is impossible. We have surveillance equipment that can pick up cockroaches and rats moving toward the border.
That's right.
And they disabled those things. So Netanyahu let it happen. Not only did he let it happen, he forestalled the response, the IDF response, for 12 hours. He did not call troops to go and defend it. Jaffe, Israel is the size of New Jersey, in right across from New York City. It's the size of New Jersey. All it would have taken is one helicopter, gunship, deployed as soon as they heard at 6:30 in the morning that they were being attacked. All it would have taken was one helicopter gunship to be flown instantly at 150 miles an hour to cross Israel, to go and defend that border and to shoot up the Hamas attackers.
Yeah, instead what they did was they deployed the Hannibal directive. They did a lot of shooting up, all right, the helicopters.
That's right. They killed a lot of the hostages themselves.
Hannibal directive.
You should tell the audience what the Hannibal directive is and also what the Samson option is.
Oh, well, and there we go. That's exactly what all this leads back to, that so much in the mainstream are afraid to talk about, it seems. But, it's the truth of the matter is this, as far as, it all goes back to JFK, as far as I'm circumcised.
Yes, you're right.
It all goes. But before you flesh that out for our listeners, I think, Skype is all screwed up here, but we do have Paul back on the call. Paul, are you there?
I am here.
We can't
Please forgive me. My phone died.
Yeah.
I thought I was charging my phone, and what actually happened was that the USB fell out of the charger, and I never recognized it. I was on the phone the whole time, and it just went to 0. So when I tried, I couldn't call you back, and I was freaking running around screaming.
Right. Well,
so please forgive me.
Okay, we were having problems with Skype. The two of you just stand by yourselves. We don't have a visual of either of you, so I'm not sure if we're going to lose you in doing this, but in whatever turns out to be the case, don't panic. We'll try to get you back as soon as possible. So let's see what happens when we click this.
My camera's on, by the way.
Look
I
at
think
that.
you have to set it on grid view.
I just closed Skype and I still hear you guys. That's crazy. But
yeah, that's happened to me before too.
Oh my God! So so there's not much more we can do here at present as far as visuals. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to share the.
I also
screen.
Don't see the record. The record button is not on.
Well, yeah, that'd be. You can try to look for that if you can, I suppose. But
I can do it. I'll try it. Yeah.
Maybe that'll help. Yeah, this is just really bizarre. The way that Skype sometimes wants to
it's been screwing up big time.
Mind of its own. But
I've been having my guests turn on the recorder.
Okay, and let's remind listeners, as far as speaking of guests, you've got a show that runs, I think it's a couple of times a week. And you're
going to be my guest on Monday.
Well, we're going to try that out. I suppose, from what I understand, it's a co-host opportunity. So
right.
Yeah, I'll be doing a little less talking than I am now because it's obviously coming over, being invited to your ship. I'll try to be on my best behavior. Although you can expect a little in the way of off-the-wall antics from time to time.
Well, antics are fine, but F-bombs are not.
No. Yeah.
Like I heard you say it. We have the same policy.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy our conversations. You're very eloquent and you're courteous, and one of my favorite hosts to be on the show.
Oh, that's great! I've coming from you, man. I tell you, it really.
And Janon is here, and she also appreciates.
But hi, Janon. It's always good to connect with you too. And thank you both so much for the support that you sent us with the recent bronchitis issues that I had to endure over the past couple of weeks.
Right.
It was really a rough go, but I think we've basically we're out of the woods now. And
there's another kind of support that I'd like to give you right now, and this is, folks, this show runs on your generosity. It's here for you, and if we're not here, you're not getting the information that you need to have a really good reality check once a week. So please contribute to Jaffe and Captain Sinclair and WPRPN. And I'd like to, at this time, invite Jaffe to come aboard a whole new radio and TV network that we've been building for 3 years. It's composed of WBOU-FM Chicago, 106.9 Chicago, Home Network TV, and Stream Life Tube. And we've been building this for 3 years. And we can offer you your own channel. All you have to do is populate it with content. But folks, Jaffe needs your support, financial support. The old saying is no buck Rogers. And that is a fact. Bills have to be paid. And we put a lot of work into these productions. And so we count on you to contribute. And whenever I'm on the show, I try to contribute after the show, to be honest with you. So please do so. And everything helps. You might think that, $5, $10 is not enough, even $1. But it all sums up in the aggregate. I think I saw there were 87 people listening. If you all cuffed up $1, it's $87. You all cuff up $10, it's $870. And Jaffe needs that support because you have to pay for electricity. You take a lot of time during the week doing your research, recruiting your guests, the time on the air, jobs that you don't take, that you could take and be paid, but you don't take them because you're working on the show. So please contribute to Captain Sinclair.
Pirate1Radio@protonmail.com is our PayPal. We do have a Teespring store as well. T-shirts, coffee mugs up for grabs. There's other ways of helping us out as well, including through minds.com, DLive, BitChute, and Odyssey. Odyssey has an auto type deal where even if you just drop by and click on play, that immediately the content provider generates booster power. So that's a really great feature that they have worked in to their platform over there. Even just liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit subscription and notification buttons so that you're able to stay in the loop, along with passing word along to friends, family, and coworkers. That because a lot of people sometimes, they're really just scraping by, unfortunately, and I
So
don't.
are we.
Yeah.
So
Well,
are
no,
we.
it's true. No, and Robert, you're so right. Most people don't understand the amount of work, the investment that it takes, not only from a financial standpoint, but the blood, sweat, and tears, the energy, spiritual energy, psychological toil, and stress. That's one of the reasons why we've scaled back actually what we're doing here this year, because of the lack, unfortunately. Well, we were all, I think, basically able to cover our just bare operating expenses this past year. Once again, that it's got to the point where we've decided, we need to take more time for ourselves. Speaking for myself personally, of course, where I could just kick back, relax, meditate, focus on the songwriting end of things, which as far as New Year's resolutions are concerned, that's what I'm really dedicating myself to in a big way, along with the live streaming end of things, of course. So, and it's interesting too, small world, Robert, you actually had someone on your show just a short while ago, not the Raelian rabbi, who I listened to a large part of the conversation that the two of you had, and I love what you did. I hope that you can make that more freely accessible to more people. The Raelian rabbi.
I think I only sent you the first hour. The second hour was even more telling.
Okay.
By the way, Rael.
Yeah.
The Raelians believe. Listen, I agree with the interpretation of the Bible that the Bible was generated by the arrival of ETs.
Something going on there. That's right.
Ezekiel. Did you hear me read the chapter from Ezekiel?
Ezekiel and the wheel? Wheels within
the wheel within the wheel, and
steel,
the four creatures that came out and walked, not on flat feet like human beings, but walked as if on hooves.
Right.
Well, folks, if you've ever seen, and I have seen, autopsy pictures of a tall white alien. There's a race of aliens called the tall whites. They walk up on the balls of their feet. They have 3 toes, and they walk up on the balls of their feet. And when you see them walking, the feet don't look like human feet with a heel on the ground. It looks like a hoof.
These aren't Nordics. Are the tall whites? They're not Nordics, are they?
No, they're not Nordics. The tall whites are different than the Nordics.
Okay.
But anyway, I agree that the Anunnaki and the Elohim of the Bible are the Anunnaki of the Sumerian cosmology. Anunnaki and Elohim mean exactly the same thing. In Hebrew, Elohim means those who from heaven came to earth.
That's Zechariah Sitchin's interpretation.
And that's Zechariah Sitchin's interpretation or translation of Anunnaki.
Right.
So the Hebrews were in Sumer for hundreds of years. Then they moved out. And when they moved out, they took the cosmology of the Sumerians and they rewrote it in Hebrew and assigned different names to the same entities who actually were very advanced genetic engineers from another planet that appeared because of their powers, the flying machines and the magic, they generated an upgrade in human beings, and They are the ones who were the fallen angels. Where did they come from? Those who from heaven to earth came. They fell from the sky, came down to the earth. Then they generated an upgrade in the proto-hominid, let's call it proto-hominid. And these angels were pretty horny, you know, and as I joked with the Raelian rabbi, you know, these angels were lonely, they were far from home. They saw a cute little monkey girl and said, "Oh, you know, she's kind of cute. Let's shave her and dress her up." And then they went in unto them and generated the Nephilim, which were these hybrids, which were the giants, and they were horrible creatures, vicious, tyrannical, looked down upon mankind as a lower form of animal. Started killing them, eating them. And that's what the book of Enoch talks about, and how God had to send 4 archangels to rein them in to prevent them from wiping out mankind. Read the book of Enoch, you get the whole story, you know?
Well, it's
so
crazy
anyway,
stuff.
back to Ezekiel, that was a spacecraft that landed. And I said to the Raelian rabbi, you know, I went back into Ezekiel. The spacecraft landed, but it didn't take off again. It didn't go back into outer space. It was zipping left and right and taking Ezekiel and others. And when the prophets say, I was taken up in the spirit and transported, obviously they're talking about a UFO, a flying saucer, a vehicle that transports them at super speeds from one place to another. So I was taken up in the spirit, and I was taken up to a high mountain, and et cetera, et cetera. So now we have the understanding of technology, which the ancients did not have. So when they heard a speaker blaring, they say, and I heard a great trumpet speaking. You know, in the book of Revelation, you hear about the trumpets and the talking that came out of the trumpets. So now we have an understanding of what we're dealing with. And these Elohim conned human beings into believing they were gods. And that, I respect the Raelians for saying that, you know. He said, they're not gods. They're beings. They're humans. They're men. Then we had this interesting conversation about Satan. This is where I get off their track, because he said, Satan is not evil. Satan is a man. He's the opposition. And I said, Rabbi, you know, when I look at the world today, there is evil in the world, and there is a devil. And they were insinuating that Lucifer is a nice guy because he brought the light. But he brought a false light. We'll let that truck go by.
Yeah, actually, we've got
those are the sounds of New York City news, folks.
Exactly, and just
not special effects.
Throw a bit of a wrench into the works here, because you know time is of the essence. I'll gladly discuss this at any other time, Robert. But for the present, course of things where we currently find ourselves, that Paul, we got to get back to Paul, but before we do. And the robocall scandal, of course, because this is really front and center of what's unfolding here in the news front, and really close, very 6 degrees of bacon, as I so often like to say, 6 degrees of bacon. So, that small world. But another example of which is the point I didn't finish earlier. You have a friend, and try to keep this short, if you will, but I was talking about music earlier, former member of the group Twisted Sister, not Dee Snider, but their guitar player.
JJ French.
Yeah, JJ. Right.
Yeah, I got him started in his career. Well, he went from a minstrel with an acoustic guitar. I lent him a book that I'm promoting. It's my teaching manual. It's called The Master Game by Dr. Robert S. DeRopp.
Right.
The Master Game. So John was about 15, 17 years old, and singing folk songs and doing acoustic guitar. And I lent him the book. 3 days later, he came and said, "Hey, thank you for that book. Now I know what I've got to do. I've been BSing myself, and now I know what I have to do. I want to be a rock star, and there's certain things you have to do to be a rock star." So he cut his hair, and he got an electric guitar, and he started a group with Dee Snider. And the next thing I knew, I was out in Brooklyn at a place called Popeyes watching his first show. And he comes up and he's like 4 inches taller than he was before. And he looked like somebody from outer space.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is history. Yeah. I'm glad you saw that show.
Yeah.
So he's one of the people that we're bringing onto the network.
Excellent.
To a home network and Stream Live Tube with his own channel.
Well, and I'd like to get some of my demos to him. There's like one in particular called Hemp for Victory. If there's one song that I'd like to get to him, it's that. And then hopefully...
Sure, send them to me and I'll forward it to him.
Yeah.
I'll be happy.
Oh, man, that'd be so awesome, because this is a song that if it finds its way into the right hands, they can take it and rework it, hopefully, upgrade things and even... There's a lot that could be done with that song, Hemp for Victory. I'm quite confident of that. But as it is, it's really popular and well known throughout the digital underground, at least in some quarters, but it hasn't really broken through to a wider audience yet. So if we can find the right, more established artist,
bring it on Monday and we'll play it on our show.
Yeah, sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's and then we got actually Roger Hansen, who's listening to this week's exclusive live stream. This is completely unplanned. The fact we were going to take the week off is the truth of the matter. Unlike what we've been doing up until now throughout the years, where we have these Friday night feature shows pretty much every week. But we got Roger's listening. We got Karma Love as well. Vinny from Brooklyn's just dropped in to the house.
Hey, Vinny, I've spoken to Vinny before.
Well, when
springtime comes, I have to get together with Vinny here in New York.
Peg Leg, Vinny out of Brooklyn. That's right. Amosdale 777. Who else are we looking at there? We had Joey Boomer, Zane Ivy, Joshua Allen Huckle, Truth Cult as well. Got a lot of lurkers. Let's not forget. Always encourage people out there lurking to remember to take the time to Johnny Canuck to log in to your Google, G Drive, Facebook, X, or D Live. We've been deplatformed and banned from, unfortunately, a handful of other outlets. Just the state of where we currently find ourselves. Everyone, all too often, having to suffer the brunt of these. Well, we don't want to get too sidetracked or distracted with why it is that our forefathers went to fight and die. The cause of freedom, essentially, and democracy was out there told is why they had to go fight Hitler, or here in Korea or Vietnam to stop the spread of communism. Yeah, that really seems to be working out well.
Yeah, well, it's one faction of the world that's been duped.
Yeah.
A whole generation has been misled by education,
hoodwinked,
and they got woke.
Yeah,
but I think a lot of people are awakening, which is
there you
proper
go.
Process. But you know what? Regarding your song, "Hemp for Victory," it's just a real weird coincidence. I was looking at the Hill today, and Biden was told that this was a great opportunity to legalize hemp, aka marijuana, in the United States, and he refused to do it. And the reason is that the powers that be make a lot more money. I was told once by a dealer, I said, "Hey, listen, New York is planning to legalize pot." He says, "I don't want that." I said, "What do you mean you don't want that? It would be legal." He said, "I don't want that. I wouldn't be making any money if it was legal. I make a lot more money because it is illegal."
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the mentality of the Democrats. Also, they use it to incarcerate whole classes of people and send them away for good long times. And let's not forget, it was Joe Biden who was the author of the super predator laws during the Clinton administration that started to send young black men primarily to jail for 20 years for having a joint or having cocaine, while the cocaine dealer would just pay a fine and be let go.
Kamala Harris was pretty active in that similar type capacity. That was it, California, I guess, and then Tulsi Gabbard busted her, caught her, dead to rights. She was exposed there a couple of years ago out in the DNC debate stage. And that's another name. We have some of the comments coming to us here via the Peanut Gallery regarding, just the political end of things. Getting back to you shortly here, Paul. Hopefully he's still with us. I can't even see what the hell's going on as far as Skype is concerned. But
I see Paul is here. I'll just say this, that Trump announced some potential vice presidential running mates today, and Tulsi Gabbard was one of them.
She's on the short list. That's right.
Yeah.
It's got to be either her or Kennedy. Kennedy would be the real rabbit out of the hat.
Yeah, knockout blow to the Democrats. And it would center. It would bring everything back to center, Because he's a little bit, left. He's left of center, and Trump is right of center. And some brainstorming between the two of them.
That's right.
Would be,
sure,
a good thing.
So, okay. Mr. Paul, let's I'm so sorry for that rather lengthy sort of sideshow. But we've got a couple videos here. Maybe we'll end on this note. Perhaps we wrap things up. Everyone can just watch together. We did rip a few videos, though, as we were telling you earlier, from YouTube and elsewhere covering this story. So is there anything, though, that you think we've missed out on to this point, Paul, which you'd like to kind of add or just to further clarify as far as your take on things? And yet another blaring siren via downtown Manhattan, of course. Pretty
I tried to
active.
mute.
That's okay. No, just keeping it real. It's like an active, busy, bustling city. Once again, I can't see if Paul, if he's it looks like he's online. Is he in this call? I have no idea. Skype. Let's try. We're gonna mute things out here. Let's see if this works. Maybe we'll try to call Paul, and we can actually then. No, that's not gonna. Well, here we go. This might do it. By gosh. So just stand by here, folks. If he responds to this, it'll definitely work. It'll definitely manage to help reconnect with him. Unless, of course, he's busy taking another call. He has been quite active throughout the day, of course, responding to all sorts of media inquiries, people wanting to get a clearer sense of his role in all of this. The New Hampshire primary AI robocall debacle. It really is a clown world story, if ever there were one. But it's great that he stepped forward and is doing the right thing, really, in helping to expose the corruption, playing the part of a whistleblower, obviously. This attempt to run yet again further election interference and meddling, of course. I guess it goes beyond meddling, just the outright interference that these operatives are attempting to bring about once again throughout the course of this election cycle. So AI, according to Robert Hoagland, great point. And this business, why are no candidates, Robert, why are no candidates speaking out more vociferously, not only regarding AI, but this rigged, phony, completely illegitimate electronic voting system that can be hacked in under a minute? I don't understand. There's something quite peculiar about all that. Oh, I'm sorry. Hang on. We have you're muted out there. Here we go. So, and you're good to go.
Well, the voting machine lobby, Dominion, is a global election rigging mafia. All of the European elections have been on Dominion machines for maybe 20 years. Canada also is on Dominion. So there's a big bucks involved in that. And, the greasy palm is what's in control. And I think that each group thinks that they can Dominion voting machine. And he said that there are instructions in there how to change the vote.
Well,
he quoted me the page. I don't remember it, but he said, Robert, you just go in there and it tells you how to change the vote, how to manipulate the vote. So nobody's talking about it because they dread bringing up the subject. But there have been findings in recent months in courts that prove, for example, that Michigan, there was a lot of ballots that were counted that shouldn't have been counted. In Arizona, the Secretary of State who ascended to the governorship told the election workers not to challenge any signature. So people could just scrawl, or create an X or just, wriggle a pen. And they were told not to verify the signatures. So they did everything they could in 2020 to steal it. As a matter of fact, I remember watching a CNN report, and Trump's vote was 20,000 votes ahead of Biden, and somebody was videotaping the returns. And there was a break away, and all of a sudden, when they came back and showed the tally, Trump had lost 20,000 votes and Biden had won 20,000 votes. Now, there's no way that somebody who's already been accredited 40,000 votes can go down to 20,000 votes within 15 seconds. But that was happening right before our eyes because the deep state dreaded having President Trump have a second term. They knew what he was doing. He was busting the global organ harvesting, pedophilia, trafficking mafia. He was cleaning out the swamp. He was closing the border. He was stopping all wars, putting an end to the perpetual warfare paradigm. So, and now they dread that now he knows how the system works and how it's been used against him, that he'll come into office and he'll use the same tactics because they've established new precedents, you see. It was unprecedented that that local district attorneys and attorneys general would go after a president. But now they established a new rule. So, as the old saying is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And there's going to be a lot of gooses cooked when President Trump comes back to office. The other interesting thing is that a lot of people believe that President Trump may not be president, but he's still commander-in-chief. There's a fellow named Darrell Johnson who's put together a lot of documentation pointing out that when the commander-in-chief realized that election had been stolen, he put into motion establishing martial law, secretly, martial law in the United States. And that while Biden may be the resident in the White House, that the real man who is running the show in anticipation of the cleanup is Commander-in-Chief Donald Trump.
Yeah, and that's one thing actually, now that you bring it up, I don't understand why he did not actually sign off on the Insurrection Act when he had the opportunity. But as you suggest, maybe there was something that took place on a more sub rosa.
Yeah, he didn't want civil war.
Well,
they did not want civil war, and that's the reason for, laying low, and also showing the public what we're dealing with, showing the real nature of the communists that have seized control of the U.S. government and the ZOG, Zionist occupation government, as they call it. For Colonel McGregor to say that Netanyahu has more influence in Washington than Biden, that's a real eye-opener. And that's exactly an affirmation of what we've been saying for years. They took over the U.S. government when they killed President Kennedy. I don't know if we talked about it, but Shimon Peres, Yitzhak Rabin, and this third one,
Jack Rubenstein. Where was he?
Jack Rubenstein was an ardent Zionist, but they were in Dallas, and Jack Rubenstein was running around. Jack Ruby was running around claiming to be translating for 2 foreign reporters, and the only languages that he spoke besides English were Russian and Yiddish. And now we find out that Shimon Peres, the director of the Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, was in Dallas when President Kennedy was killed. And remember President Kennedy's ardent efforts to stop Israel from having an atomic bomb. That led to the fall of Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister. And when he left office, I am told that his last command was kill John F. Kennedy. So the CIA and the Mossad have been hand in glove since both were formed and organized in 1947. And James Jesus Angleton, the chief of counterintelligence, was the father of Mossad, along with Kim Philby, a notorious MI6 turncoat, who was a spy for the Soviets. And in the end, he fled from England and wound up living the rest of his life in Russia or Soviet Union. So it's all coming out in the wash. We all know it. I'm sure you know that I found the killer of President Kennedy last year, or he found me. They found me, and I had him on my show on Easter Sunday, and he made a confession, a live on-the-air confession, that he was the shooter on the grassy knoll. He describes every moment. He describes the gun he used, the position he took, and his attitude, which was really a nasty attitude. But he was a mind-controlled idiot of the CIA, and he had been raised from birth, and literally from birth, from conception, to be a mindless killer, a killing tool, a killing instrument for the United States Army. He came out of a U.S. Navy breeding program that the Navy instituted after they found out that Hitler was trying to create a master race. The U.S. Navy said, well, we have to have one too. So they got a captain, a U.S. Navy captain named Len Sutton, to approach a pretty young lady in Alabama who was poor, destitute, and told her, you can do something for your country. We have this program. We need to breed very special servicemen and special people. And if you'll have a baby with me, the Navy will take care of you and the baby, and they'll give you a stipend, place to live, and they'll take care of the child's education. So when he was 8 years old, the Navy took James Sutton and sent him to a school called Camp Hero in Montauk, New York. And I've actually become friends with this man because he had a conversion in prison. He said that Jesus Christ appeared to him twice in his cell, and he had a conversion. And so he confessed. So I said, well, what did they teach you at Camp Hero. He said, well, the most important thing was mathematics. Numbers were most important because we would have to know how to direct artillery and calculate bullet trajectories. And then they taught me, knife throwing, bomb making.
Operation 40 was where he ended up at some point along the way.
He was part of Operation 40.
He was there on the ground. In fact, there's a picture of him with none other than Che Guevara. He was one of the people, was he not, who helped to capture Che Guevara?
Right. Felix Rodriguez was another operative, part of Operation 40. And
Rodriguez was one of George H.W. Bush's assets, was he not?
Yes, he was. He was recruited to teach and train the Bay of Pigs invaders. He has a fascinating life story.
Zapatista.
Yeah, so he went from Camp Hero, and at 18, he joined the 82nd Airborne, and he was so good at soldiering that the CIA picked him out and sent him to Laos to fight a covert war that we were fighting in Vietnam before we officially got involved in Vietnam. It was called Operation White Star. And he proved to be such an efficient jungle fighter and assassin. At the end of a year, he killed nearly 25, I think 18 to 25 people. I forget the exact number. So they brought him back, and they installed him as a resident assassin. But in order to keep a distance from him, they installed him in the Chicago Mafia. So he would do killings for the Chicago Mafia, and he would do killings for the CIA. But he's told me that the CIA always had priority, because if he got a call from David Atlee Phillips and David Atlee Phillips gave him the code word, he would just drop everything that he was doing. And just like the Manchurian Candidate, when they showed the Queen of Diamonds, he just like turn into a zombie and go do the job. So that is really what they were able to do through MK Ultra.
Makes me wonder about Lee Harvey Oswald as well too, and his mother, and who was his father? Speaking of James Files and the breeding program,
Robert Lee Oswald. His mother was Marguerite Oswald.
Oh, right.
He had. When you hear this story about the two Lee Oswalds, the two Lee Harvey Oswalds?
Yeah, or three or four.
He had a brother. He had a brother named Robert Lee Oswald.
Yeah.
And he was Lee Harvey Oswald. And they looked so much alike that when they were in school in New York City, Robert Lee was older. And Robert Lee, having graduated from high school, would tell Lee Harvey to stay home, and he'd go into school and pretend to be Lee Harvey.
Would he have intentionally betrayed his brother?
Yes, because if you read the biography that he wrote, Biography of an Assassin by Robert Lee Oswald, he writes in there that he had suspicions that the man he met at the airport in Dallas, having come back from Russia, took him aback. He said, when I saw this guy, I was really shocked, because my brother was a almost 6 foot tall, bull-necked, strapping Marine with wavy hair, and the guy I saw was scrawny, had kinky black hair, and he wasn't tall enough, even though he was wearing 3-inch high heels, cowboy boots. Then he describes a family secret that they had. There was a third brother who had been born to Marguerite Oswald before she married Robert Lee Oswald. And Robert Lee Oswald adopted this boy and raised him as his son. John Pick was his real name. But this was a family secret. As far as the neighborhood was concerned, and anybody that knew them, they were the 3 Oswald brothers, sons of Robert Lee Oswald. This is something they never told anyone. So Robert Oswald, the brother of Lee Harvey, says that he picked him up at the airport. He was suspicious that he didn't really look like his bull-necked brother. Then he took him and Marina home. They had a Thanksgiving dinner and that Lee Harvey started to introduce the family. So he introduced his mother, he introduced his father, he introduced Robert Lee Oswald, and then when he pointed out John, he said, "This is my half-brother, John Pick." And they were utterly shocked and embarrassed because that was a total taboo to tell anyone that John Pick was a half-brother. So it seems to me that the brother, Robert, concluded that this guy was not his brother, that the Russians had killed his brother and substituted a double agent. And there is reason to believe that. People don't know the story of Oswald in Russia. He was sheep-dipped by the CIA from the Marines. He was trained in Russian. He was then told to defect to Russia. And he was led through Europe, staying at hostels and halfway houses that were run by the Rockefeller Foundation. And they got him from up to Sweden and then from Sweden into Russia. When he went in, the Russians were suspicious and he asked for a visa and they refused to give it to him. Now, there is an account of an attempted suicide. They claim that Lee Oswald was so despondent that the Russians wouldn't give him a visa that he cut his wrist and sat in a bathtub to kill himself. And that the Russians found him and they, sewed him up and they said, "Oh God, this guy's really serious, he's really serious, so let's give him a visa." So they gave him a job in a radio factory in Minsk, and he met a girl named Marina Prusakova, who happened to be the niece of a colonel in the NKVD. The NKVD was the equivalent of the FBI that we have here. And Oswald married Marina. He went to the State Department. He said, "Okay, I want to go back to the States." He actually went in there. He threw his passport in there. He said, I'm renouncing my American citizenship. I'm going to stay in Russia. So he went back. They gave him back his passport. They gave his wife a visa. They paid for his trip home. He showed up in Atlanta where he was met by a certain Dr. Davidson, hauling a huge trunk. He was debriefed for 3 days in Atlanta. Then he went to Dallas, and all he had in Dallas was a suitcase. So I've come to the conclusion that the man we saw was not the real original Lee Harvey Oswald. I have deduced that the Russians found the real Lee Harvey Oswald out as a double agent. They killed him after debriefing and learning everything about him and his family and his background. And then they substituted a lookalike and sent him here. And that's the patsy who was killed. And if he had gone on trial in any cross-examination, he would have been exposed. And he would have been exposing the fact that James Jesus Angleton had recruited an American Marine to be an infiltrator into the Soviet Union.
Oh, what a web of intrigue.
James Files, listen to this. James Files was a mind-controlled operative. And I, too, was part of a Navy program, experiment to develop artificial intelligence. And I said to Mr. Files, James, this is really strange. The U.S. Army trained you to be an assassin, and you killed President Kennedy. And the Navy trained me to find you. And I worked for 60 years to find you. And here we are, back on the right track of history. It's been an amazing, amazing odyssey.
You made it to Dallas this past November, is that right?
No, I was invited. I was invited to go to Dallas. They were willing to pay my way to be there, but I said no. God is telling me to stay in New York. And what I did in New York was I contacted the Times of London and an excellent reporter named Hugh Tomlinson. And then I connected him with James Files and James Scott in Dallas to have an interview. And he wrote the most honest, most respectful, and direct description of James Files' testimony without calling him a fraud or a wannabe or a conspiracy theorist. And so the Times of London, one of the greatest newspapers on the planet, was the first to tell the world the real, true story of the man who assassinated President Kennedy. And the genie cannot be put back in the bottle. The truth is out.
So wait a minute. You're saying then, just to be clear, that the Times of London contacted you?
Well, I had a contact with this reporter,
right,
who contacted me a few months ago because, in addition to my expertise in the JFK assassination, I'm also a long-standing expert in UFOs.
Right.
So in June, when the Congress had the hearing on UFOs, this reporter, Hugh Tomlinson, contacted me and interviewed me for an hour, asking me what I thought was going on and how it was going to turn out. So I had that contact. And so when the 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination came, I said, this is what I have to do. I'm going to contact him.
Uh-oh. Okay, stand by, folks. A bit of a technical... this is one of these things here. Click on the wrong button in Skype, and sometimes things go a little bit goofy. So hopefully Robert will pick up the call here momentarily. We're going to be wrapping things up here as well shortly. Thanks to everyone who has dropped by, has contributed to the peanut gallery end of things. We try to get your comments here within the next few minutes. We've reached 100 member plus threshold, actually. Did I just say member? Should have said message. Yes. So 100 messages. Peanut Gallery's been on fire this go round. Unfortunately, Paul seems to be having what is presumably further technical issues himself with his phone, his spy phone. Oh, no, Robert, not able to pick up. We clicked on the wrong button here on through Skype, so let's see if bloody hell, I tell you, sometimes things go quite well here using this voice over internet protocol, Skype. Other times not so much, unfortunately. But yes, we've reached the 100 message chat threshold, so self-congratulatory pat on the back to everyone who's helped to keep the conversation flowing along. We also have some video, some AV we'd like to share with our audience here. If we're not able to connect with Robert, we will actually be getting to that within just the next few brief minutes, is what things are looking like here. Typically, we like to have things run for about approximately 90 minutes, of course, with each of the Friday night feature shows that we do produce. This has been nearly 2.5 hours, interestingly. So certainly managed to overshoot the mark. Hopefully everybody listening in did manage to get at least a little bit of what they were looking for. This starting with the exclusive scoop, courtesy of Paul David Carpenter. I don't think, for as much as he had to offer, the time that he did have to speak, that I'd really love to have him back and, maybe just further clarify a few things, revisit the story, and chances are we've yet to see or to hear the last of what has unfolded via the AI robocall end of things, starting with the New Hampshire primaries, and as Robert hit upon, God only knows where this is all going to find itself leading to as far as the wider context of 2024. Then, of course, there's the whole electronic vote rigging angle. That's something that, as we asked Robert, why more candidates, political commentators, and the like do not speak out against and exposing, and he seems to think it, from the sounds of things at least, boils down to a money issue. It's all about those Benjamins, or if you prefer, of course, shekels. Both equally applicable when it comes to America, especially looking at what special interests do dominate. Truth be told, once you pull back the take a deeper, closer look at what is actually the landscape, political landscape across America, and these high-powered special foreign interests, unfortunately. So, I mean, why wouldn't you want America for Americans first and foremost? As we hit upon earlier, the Kalergi Plan playing a central part in this order out of chaos, ordo ab chaos agenda that continues to roll right along completely, if not simply largely unchecked. Nothing, not unfortunately, all too little as far as pushback, something we need more of. Canada as well too. Let's not forget, myself, an expat Canadian here via the Korean Peninsula. This will be the 23rd tour of duty, folks. Amazing the way time just rolls along. So let's Karma Love. Wow, she's really been on fire here via the Peanut Gallery. Impressive to see. Good stuff there, Karma Love. Vinny from Brooklyn. Pirate Joe Pyatt. One of several expats who, along with Zane Ivey, small number of us here that do take an interest in taking a closer look and conversing over the whole, area of current events, really, is what this is all about. Although ultimately, of course, let's not forget, how does that old saying go? God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So much within this world of chaos and madness, yet ultimately, as far as personal responsibility is concerned, if only each of us were to take the time, make the effort in caring for our spiritual well-being, mental wellness, as it were, stability, basic sanity. Of course, one of the reasons I myself advocate meditation as a very powerful means of connecting with the earth, contrary to what the way Jim Morrison, that song of the Doors, not to touch the earth. For anyone who's ever taken the time to reflect upon the significance of that particular number, I'd like to go back and look at the lyrics, actually. Not to touch the earth. Pretty sure that's really what it deals with, this whole business of completing the circuit. Something probably the powers that be know all too well. The hijacking of consciousness. We do have some activity here via Skype. Not sure what the deal is exactly. Well, it looks like, not sure if... Hang on a second. Hang on a second. Hang on. Oh, son of a gun. What is going on here? No. This is the weirdest Skype we've had for the longest time. Let's see. Are we able to make a little bit of technical magic happen? Yes. Well, hey, we've got... hang on a second there. We finally managed to reconnect. Yeah, we did. I remember. Oh, jeez.
Well, I did a great show.
Oh, you just kind of carried along on your own, did you? Are you live streaming yourself?
I'm waiting for you to ask a question. So I recorded it, and I did a dissertation on the JFK assassination.
Oh, well, we'll have to edit. That's why we've got post-production.
Yeah, the recording should be there. But when I came back, there were 3 conversations with Paul Carpenter and Captain Sinclair. There were 3 of them. Bang, bang, bang.
Oh,
so I wanted to try to connect with all of you.
Okay. Well, Paul is currently AWOL, so we're not sure what the deal is exactly. Just hopefully, he didn't... It's a technical issue and not the fact that maybe he was feeling a little miffed because of the way that the conversation shifted elsewhere. But, we'll see.
But he said he had a problem with his phone.
Yeah.
He said
yeah. But,
and the fact that there were 3 conversations there is really odd.
Oh, God. We're good now, though. And the thing is, last time I mistakenly, trying to bring everyone together again, I clicked on the video icon, and stay away from that one, folks. Don't do that if you're trying to remedy things on Skype. Just take it from me. So, but it's all good. We're back here, and we've just, the conversation has been on fire, not only, within the context of what we've had to hash over, but also the peanut gallery itself, where a whole string of listeners, people that have joined us here throughout the live end of things, and it's gone really well. So we'll have to pick up on this come probably Tuesday, I guess, with the news, a bit of a follow-up, and then a feature show next Friday, same time as always. Speaking of Tuesday, now that's Wednesday, of course, here via South Korea, so let's not get confused. But Tuesday, when I say Tuesday, I mean actually it's South Korea, it's Wednesday, but with your show, that's Mondays, 10 o'clock.
So, my show will be Monday night at 10 o'clock,
right,
which I think is Tuesday, 11 o'clock your time? I don't know.
12 noon.
12 noon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time is it there, just to get it?
Currently, it's around 3:30 in the afternoon.
2-hour difference. Okay,
Saturday
so 12 noon to 10 o'clock for me. I'll call you a couple of minutes before the hour.
Yeah.
And you'll be my host.
Well, I'll be on camera, too, for the first time.
Yeah, you will be on camera.
Yeah. So I've got to we're going to be changing locations here, actually. I'm going to be heading over to we have a little kind of mini academy, basically, not too far from where we're currently located. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun. It's just one of those things I wrestle with philosophically, the whole camera business largely. But I've kind of made a decision that as a guest on other people's shows, I will appear on camera and willingly without too much reservation.
Great.
So, and what's going to be on the table then exactly? What are we going to be?
Anything
discussing?
you want to talk about.
Oh, I see. So open.
Last Monday, I had two Canadians, a lady, Jody Ledgerwood, and Andrew Curry, who is my irregular co-host now because he turned to Little League Baseball. But he came back and we did a commemoration of the Freedom Convoy, the Truckers' Freedom Convoy.
Excellent.
And how that changed history. That was 2 years ago.
Great. Yeah.
And we were all of us were really intimately involved in organizing it and promoting it.
Never been prouder to be a Canadian, actually.
And I don't blame you because you changed history. Canadian truckers inspired a revolution in Europe. First, it started with the Netherlanders, the Dutch, and then people don't know this, that France has been in practically civil war, and the French farmers and the Dutch farmers went up to Brussels and confronted the European Parliament, and they forced them to relent on taking their farms and killing the cows and all of that environmental BS that they were pushing. People don't know this has happened. And it was the Canadian Freedom Truckers, Freedom Convoys, that inspired the whole world. So you stopped the global tyranny in its tracks. And I'm very proud of you. And I'm very proud of Revolution Radio having been involved in fostering that and supporting it and getting people to participate. And I told my friends Jody Ledgerwood and Andrew Carr, I can't believe it's just 2 years ago. So much has transpired. It felt to me like 3 or 4 years ago, but time is flying by.
Well, this is World War V, as far as I'm circumcised, right. Man. It's World War V.
I had it up to 4.
That was September 11th. September, for us keeping score, this end of things, I don't know if you're familiar with Kaiser Schuff or not. He drew to our attention.
Yes, he's a good friend.
He's a military contractor of sorts. But World War III, according to him, was the Cold War, and that makes a lot of sense. World War IV, in my mind, clearly kicked off September 11th, 2001, and you can kind of, at least as far as from our end of things, that it came to an end when Biden just abandoned everything en masse in Afghanistan. That's right. So what a debacle!
Disgusting.
People, don't forget about that, folks. You'd hope that more Republicans, if they're legitimately opposed to Biden and his agenda and track record, they'll speak out against this. RFK Jr. as well, too, presumably. Which these low orbit satellites, I love the way that he phrased things. This speech that CNN censored, they edited it and they made it to look as if he was saying things that he was not, and with the whole their spin and approach. Did you catch that speech? I think he was in Washington. It was about a month or so ago, and I
didn't see that one.
Oh,
what did he say? What did he say about the satellites?
Okay, I guess I never. Yeah, so thank you for reminding me. Finish your point, Jaffe. That they're weaponized. Obviously, they're weaponized not only with respect, surveillance, but the context of he didn't say World War V, but this asymmetrical warfare, the war on humanity. Those are my words now, not his. But it's they're Bill Gates heavily implicated and active within their operations. Things such as scalar weaponry, Tesla technology, and things like Wi-Fi and 5G and the fact of the war on consciousness and how, we better be meditating, people, and we better be mindful and aware of what's going on within the realm of consciousness and our thoughts.
Well, we've been exposing it, haven't we? We've been exposing how the mRNA vaccine and the graphene oxide is part of this mind control technology, and that the satellite is what do you call it? Starlink, Elon Musk, Starlink.
Right.
All of that is part of components. And our friend Kaiser Schuff was talking about this as one of the reasons why we invaded Iraq and had to put down Saddam Hussein, because that super gun that Gerald Bull, a Canadian engineer, was building for Iraq was not to hit Israel, but it was actually to launch satellites. And they found out that Saddam Hussein had this technology to be able to attack the United States using satellite technology to beam down radiation or transmissions that would directly affect our brains. And now with the mRNA vaccine having injected graphene oxide, hydrogel, and the spike protein into our bodies, and everybody's gotten it. I didn't get the vaccine, but everybody has been shed upon, right?
Yeah, and I would say, just Robert, in brief, sorry to cut in here, but with respect to the V word, we can get away with kill shots and clot shots. I think that we're managed to we can skirt around the silly, the algorithms or the AI that YouTube has in place. Otherwise, you notice that how many of these key words that are sensitive that people via boob tube that they leave out a letter or two, but so that it doesn't get picked up. But if we say kill shots or clot shots, that I think manages.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we now know that the clot shot put this nanobots inside the human body, and that when the nanobots, they're practically invisible in the bloodstream, but when they get in the range of 5G radiation, they start to expand and grow and aggregate. And Dr. Anna Mahalsia, a very accomplished researcher, has been doing tremendous work in microscopy, and she's taken photographs of these nanobots appearing and disappearing in the bloodstream. I've been working with some people who are looking for the antidote and using electron microscopes, and I've seen these things appear out of nowhere. So we think that this is a interdimensional technology.
Yeah, and why is that then exactly with the ET tie-in? And let's not forget Charles Lieber, his role in all of this. I don't want to go on at any great length, but the people need to know. Like you'll hear it from us, folks. Hashtag truth bombs. Mainstream Mockingbird media will lay it out there for you. I guess they're too worried about their advertising dollars or something along those lines, but the hybrid, the ET angle, and Lieber's role within all of this, if you don't mind, just.
Well, I don't mind doing that at all. He was developing this hotshot technology, and he set up the laboratory for the Chinese in Wuhan, and it was built by France. And France thought that they had a deal that they were going to cohabitate in the laboratory. But as soon as they finished building the laboratories in Wuhan, the BSL-3 and the BSL-4, the Chinese kicked them out. So,
BSL-3 acronym for what exactly?
Biological safety level. Biological safety level 3.
Oh.
And then biological safety level 4 is the highest. But they were working on the clot shot and the bat virus in the BSL-3 laboratory, and it was very shoddy. But, Jeffy, in recent weeks, the documentation has been produced, and Pfizer was paid by DARPA grants to develop it, and Fauci was told he couldn't do it in the United States. So they outlawed that research, gain-of-function research in the United States. So Fauci packaged up his research, handed it over to his lab assistant, Dr. Shi, a Chinese virologist. She went to Wuhan to work in the laboratory that Charles Lieber had set up, and they developed it there. But also in these papers, they found the funding for establishing these bioweapons, gain-of-function laboratories in Ukraine. So everything that you and I on Revolution Radio have been telling people about the real reasons for the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, Russia busted people said 30, but the Department of Defense admitted it was 46. 46 gain-of-function laboratories were set up in eastern Ukraine, right on the border of Russia, to develop a specific bioweapon that would target the Slav gene. And you know Russians are Slavs. So they planned to infect birds and insects with it. And when the wind was blowing from west to east, they were going to release them to put a plague on Russia. So Putin was telling the truth. We were telling the truth. And now the documentation. There's another villain named Ralph Barrick who was conducting gain-of-function research at the University of North Carolina. And when that was outlawed, Fauci got around it by saying, oh, we're going to keep funding you because you were previously approved for funding. So these American virologists were working hand in glove with the plot to reduce global population. And according to Bill Gates' goal, his goal was to reduce the global population by 15% by using vaccines. And I said to people, you know, when you hear 15%, you don't think it's very much. You think about 15 cents on the dollar. But when you talk about 15% of 7.5 billion people, to reduce it 15% in 5 years, I did the calculations, and you have to kill 234 million people a year to achieve that goal. So that is what has been going on. And now the mega death is unfolding. People are dropping dead from turbo cancers, myocarditis, leukemia, kidney failures, brain strokes, and all of those are consequences of the clot shot. And that was their plan. So, and at the heart of it all is Israel and the biotechnology industry in Israel.
Yeah.
So,
well, the interesting thing is, well, now it's been disputed as to the accuracy of the claim, but I tend to believe that he's got it right. He may have been somewhat off base. RFK Jr., within the context of things, came out, and it was not received well by the mainstream press, the way that they interpreted it and spun the whole thing. But you remember how he talked? Well, there's another. That's all they do. It seems is want to edit and spin without being all that honest or accurate, unfortunately. But here's what he said is that, and just stating the facts as far as he understood them to be, that with this study that was made, it was largely Caucasians and Africans who got hit the hardest throughout the past number of years within the context of the whole scam-demic, whereas the Han Chinese, Finns, and Ashkenazi Jews, for whatever reason, coincidentally enough, measurably lower numbers were affected in any detrimental way. So, but he got attacked like, well, you would probably understand, but
Jeffy, as I said, they edited what he said so he would say only that. But what he added was, these were the findings of the Cleveland Clinic.
Mm-hmm.
The Cleveland Clinic is one of the most prestigious hospitals and research hospitals in the whole world. My brother was treated for pancreatic cancer, not pancreatic, prostate cancer, and healed by volunteering for a program. It's a very prestigious institute. And that's where he got the data. And he mentioned that. And they cut that out to make it sound like he was a loon and just making up stuff off the top of his head.
What we're seeing, though, if this is the case, because we've heard it, in numerous times now throughout the years, that there have been efforts to produce racially specific bioweapons, and
yes.
it almost seems like this is exactly what was deployed, what was rolled out within the context of this World War V, War on Humanity, where now it's like asymmetrical warfare, fifth generational warfare, silent weapons for quiet wars. Just
that's why I mentioned Ukraine.
Right. Yeah. That's
what you're talking about. It was a targeting a specific gene pool, the Slavic people. So Putin did what he needed to do, and I think he did. And that whole thing is such a terrible catastrophe. 500,000 people have been killed, Ukrainians, in that war that wasn't necessary. It was instigated by the United States, the deep state, and Biden, Obama. And it's a very big revenge trip on the Ukrainians, because the Ukrainians had participated with the Nazis in the extermination of Eastern European Jewry, and they swore revenge. But their revenge is on everyone. They blame Europe. They blame Ukrainians. They blame the Germans. They blame Americans. And so their plan is to depopulate the world for the greater Israel.
Are you in any way, then, just to be clear, implicating the Khazarian mafia, as they're known?
Yes. Now the Khazarian mafia are fake Jews, okay? They converted and they took over Judaism. The Zionists are not real Jews, because a real Jew is one who believes in the Torah, practices the Torah, observes the Torah. These guys, the Zionists, are atheistic, materialistic, anti-God, communists, Marxist-Leninists.
In addition to this, Robert, and sorry to cut you off, but just to be clear here, most of the world's Zionists are not even Jewish. You're aware of that?
That's right, because they've conned Christians into becoming Zionist Christians.
That's crazy. I've been trying to get my head wrapped around this whole business of Christian Zionism, but you see it heavily promoted in the States.
It took them 100 years to do it, but about 100 years ago, they got a pastor named Strong to write Strong's Biblical Concordance and to make the case that Israel is the apple of God's eye, and the whole purpose of everything is to build a temple, forgetting completely Jesus Christ and the reparation of Christ and the bringing of his teaching. Now here, as long as we're talking about this, I want to destroy this fallacy that they have created. They say that God promised Abraham this land in perpetuity, that he made a covenant with Abraham. And that was true in the beginning. But a covenant is a contract between two parties. And it takes both parties to live up to the covenant. And what Jesus pointed out is that the Israelites and the Jews had broken the covenant. They had killed the prophet Zacharias, and then they killed John the Baptist, and ultimately they killed Jesus Christ. So they killed these last three prophets that were sent to them. They broke the covenant. That's why the temple was destroyed. And they were told to disperse and spread around the world. Don't come back until the Messiah comes back. They think they're going to force the Messiah to come back by causing World War III.
This is the synagogue of Satan as well, too.
That's
I believe
right.
that you're referring to.
That's what Jesus was talking about. They broke the covenant. It is not true anymore. When they killed Zacharias and John the Baptist and Jesus, they terminated the contract. And so that whole promise to Abraham is no longer valid. It's no longer true. But they only tell you that first part of the agreement. They don't tell you about the rupture of the covenant.
That's a great point. The Sanhedrin as well, too, really. There, they say a lot of times you hear this business of blaming the Jews for the crucifixion, the death of Christ. But as far as, in my mind, my way of looking at it, it's the Sanhedrin, really, who need to be held to account. Pilate did not want to put Christ to death. And
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Pilate is quite a fascinating character. I found 3 letters that Pilate wrote to Tiberius Caesar, reporting his meeting with Jesus Christ. And, they try to debunk them now, but in 1935, University of Cambridge authenticated them. 2 letters in Greek and 1 letter in Latin.
Wow.
And he describes meeting Jesus, seeing Jesus preaching, comparing him in his stature and his appearance to some of the Roman gods as depicted in the statuary. He talks about, here's an interesting thing. We all know the Christmas story about the angels coming down to announce it to the shepherds, right? Hark the herald angels sing. Well, one of the most fascinating parts of this report by Pontius Pilate to Caesar was the report of the resurrection. And he said that he had assigned guards to guard the tomb to keep the body from being stolen. But in the middle of the night, the Roman soldiers were startled by the appearance of the sun. And they were saying, the sun is coming out awfully early tonight. And then that the heavens were filled with men coming down dressed in white, and they terrorized the Roman soldiers, and the Roman soldiers just ran away in panic. And that these men dressed in white came down, rolled back the stone, and then Jesus's body disappeared. And what they found was the folded linen, the burial garments that Jesus had been wrapped in for his burial in the tomb of Joseph of Arimathea.
That wouldn't have been the shroud, would it? Shroud of Turin?
Yes, it is the shroud. There are 2 things. There's 2 artifacts. One is the shroud of Turin, and the other one is Veronica's veil. And Veronica's veil is like a handkerchief that a woman named Veronica went up to Jesus and put it to his face to wipe off the sweat and the blood as he was on his way to Golgotha. So all of these things are artifacts, and the shroud is real. The shroud is true. As a matter of fact, it was proven, authenticated many years ago by doing an experiment on it. They found pollen in the shroud, and they studied the pollen that they extracted from the shroud, and they found that it was a kind of pollen that only existed at the time of Jesus's birth, because pollen also evolves and it changes, it mutates. So the pollen that they found in the Shroud of Turin was dated to about that time, 30 AD, the time of Jesus' crucifixion.
Big shout out to Reverend Jim, who is helping, he's syndicating the show this go around. So great to have him in the mix, of course. Always.
Yes.
Are you up to speed with Reverend Jim and his support of keeping up the fight in promoting the history surrounding the attempted sinking of the USS Liberty back in
Oh,
1968.
I'm right on board with that one.
You know about
That's what
Reverend Jim, and yeah.
I think I may have heard him once.
Okay, it'd be great for you to connect to the two of you.
Yeah, we should do a show on the USS Liberty.
Get him on board, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that is something that Navy men never forget.
Well, and he was someone who served in that capacity as well. So I'm sure the two of you would really
right.
connect in a big way. That's
great.
Well,
you know, the Zionists sacrifice their own people and they sacrifice other people to attain their political agendas.
Jeez, yeah. Do they ever? Look at the Holocaust itself. You know, people say, oh, that they would never have a hand in doing such a thing to their own people. Want to bet? And I was just watching a documentary the other day. It was none other than Walter Rothschild. He was the leading force and figure. Of course, Theodore Herzl more just a front man, I guess. But
well,
Walter,
they murdered him. You know, that Theodore Herzl put forth the concept, and then they had a meeting in Basel, and I was told by Barry Shamish that. The whole thing was hijacked by the Khazarians, and they poisoned Theodore Herzl.
The World Zionist Congress, as it was known, maybe even to this day still exists. I'll tell you something that's interesting. We brought up earlier, just a few, short time ago, the business of the Sanhedrin and the so-called Synagogue of Satan. But the Sanhedrin itself had disbanded for thousands of years. At what time exactly, I'm not sure. But just recently, in the last maybe 15 years or so, 15, 20 years, has there been a meta-modern reemergence of this terrible God-forsakely organization. So, I mean, it would be interesting to have the representatives drop by and speak to them, have them justify their existence. Well, quite a lot
as
to
long
answer
as we're
to.
talking about these biblical things and the historicity of Jesus and proving it from documents like Pontius Pilate's letters and the Shroud of Turin and whatnot, there's another proof of Jesus's life and crucifixion. And this was an amazing discovery. I don't know if you fellas remember the naked archaeologist.
Oh, yeah, he's great. I like him a lot.
Yeah, Simka Jakubowicz.
Yeah?
So he did an amazing series of documentaries of going to Holy Land and, exploring archaeology. One of the things he found out was that in Israel, in the excavations, they found the ossuary of Caiaphas, the high priest.
Right.
So he started studying that, and he found out that there were two nails that were found in the ossuary is a box in which they buried the bones of the deceased. So this box for the high priest, Caiaphas, was found, and two nails were found. One nail was inside the box and one nail was outside the box. So when he went looking for the artifacts, he couldn't find the nails. So he began an investigation, and he finally tracked down the nails to Hebrew University, where they had been stashed. And apparently they had been removed from the box because they don't want people to believe that Jesus Christ really lived and was crucified. But who in the world, other than the man who crucified Jesus, would want to keep the nails as a trophy and have them buried with him?
Caiaphas.
The
head of he was one of the top members of the Sanhedrin. I guess they like that kind of an ancient day World Economic Forum, or this elite. Were they elected, or this kind of self-appointed?
It's inherited. They had to be of a certain bloodline.
I see. Yeah,
they had to be Levites and Cohens to assume that role.
Right. Not sure about Levite, but apparently the surname Cohen means priest.
Cohen is high priest. Yeah. The lineage of the high priest is Cohen's.
Okay. Well, we're multitasking here, doing a lot via X, aka Twitter. We see all your comments coming our way, and really appreciate the support once again, folks. Yourself as well, big time, Robert. We're going to reconnect here again through your show this Monday night at 10.
Monday night in New York time, Tuesday morning Korea time. And of course, it'll be recorded, and you're free, of course, to rebroadcast it. By the way, our programs are broadcast on Home Network TV and Stream Live Tube, and the audio is broadcast to Chicago. So my shows are Sundays on Studio A, revolution.radio, at 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. And then on Monday, I have Studio B, 10 p.m. to 12 p.m. So we share the knowledge with Home Network TV, where the video can be seen. And every morning at 9 o'clock, WBOU 106.9 FM in Chicago, and Fort Collins and Milwaukee, as well as being streamed on Home Network and Stream Live Tube. So if you miss the shows on Monday or Sunday and Monday, if you're an early bird, you can catch up with them in Chicago by radio, or you can go to Home Network TV and find the main channel where they're rebroadcast. We also rebroadcast Batman and the Green Hornet, really cool shows from the 1960s as well.
Really? So like the classic television series themselves?
Yeah.
So yeah. We'll have to talk about how that you're able to pull that one off. So that's pretty cool.
Because we're licensed, WBOU 106.9 FM is licensed, so we can play rock and roll songs. They have
far out.
They have the right to do that, and the licensing from the FCC that we have for the channels makes it possible for us to stream old movies, any movie we want, and any series we want.
Oh God!
If you want to catch up with Mr. Ed, the Talking Horse, you might find him there too.
Well, has the original Star Trek series made its way into the?
I'll have to ask my friend Alan Fredrickson. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, we could put that in there.
Brilliant. So, all right. Well, and people, of course, it's your Substack typically that we add here to the archived end of things. So, Robert Morningstar at Substack, essentially. We have the link here somewhere. So,
right. Yeah. But do not become a paid subscriber. I've just found out the hard way that Substack hired a company called Stripe.com that seems to be a front for a Chinese banking scam. They're acting as a bank. And they owe me $1,260 from the generosity of my paid subscribers. But they've got a scam going, and they insist on you proving yourself over and over and over again. And they're using AI to generate a stream of redundant emails, trying to placate you and put you off and giving you instructions to go to your account and try and do this and do that. But they block your account. It's like a catch-22. You can get into your account if you prove who you are. And to prove who you are, you have to submit your social security card.
Yeah, well, forget that.
Identity. Yeah. I've done that over and over and over.
No.
And I said, hey, wait a minute. And I was doing it on email. And I said to this guy, JR or Jason R., are you artificial intelligence or are you a real human being? And I didn't get an answer for a few days. And he wrote, oh, I'm a real human being. And I said, well, I want to talk to you in person, by phone. So we went on the phone. This guy had a really thick Chinese accent.
Oh, jeez.
And he wouldn't give me his name. He said his name was Junior. I said, what's your full name? He says, it's Junior. I said, you mean to tell me that your passport says Junior and no surname? He goes, yes. I said, they call me that in the office. They also call me JR. And he signed off his emails, Jason, Jayson. Oh,
you should have told him, Robert, you wanted to talk to Senior. Junior's fine.
So,
you want to talk to
what
Senior.
I did was I said to him, Nisha Jungwa Ranma? He said, what? I said, Nisha Busha Jungwa. And he freaked out. He said, what? I said, you sound Chinese to me, and I just asked you in Chinese, are you a Chinese person? He said, oh. And I said, the reason I did that is that it just happens that this is the Chinese New Year, and I wanted to wish you a happy Chinese New Year. And then he got really shaken up, and he goes, well, I don't observe Chinese New Year because it doesn't go with my religion. And I said, God, I found the one person, the one Chinese guy in 1.5 billion people who doesn't celebrate Chinese New Year. Give me a break, man. So that's where I asked him for the address of stripe.com, and he wouldn't give it to me. But it's really odd. I mean, I got a stream. The stream just keeps coming. The emails signed by Annie, signed by Jason, signed by another person, giving the same instructions. I said, I have just discovered a Chinese money laundering banking scam. Mm-hmm. So they made one mistake. There was one email that I could see when it came in, had an address in San Francisco. But when I opened the email, you couldn't find the address. So I shut the email, went back again, and in the, like the subject line or just below, it was peeking out. So I put it up. I searched, and I came to stripe.com in San Francisco on DuckDuckGo, and then I saw complaints. And I opened up complaints to the Better Business Bureau. And all these people were complaining of the same scam that I was talking about. And these people are now representing probably hundreds of websites, real estate brokers, small business owners. And I'm reading this litany of complaints, all describing the same methodology: forestalling, stalling, evading. So I told the guys, you better pay me my money, or else you're going to have a visit from several federal agencies. So today I notified Substack, and I notified Stripe that I'm going to proceed with legal action in New York and California, but they're going to have a visit from certain federal agencies that have the F as the first letter of their acronym. No, man, we got to take a stand, against these scammers. And this has to be another one of those Chinese gangster money laundering operations and stealing people's hard-earned money. Not just me. I really felt sorry for these other people. I said, I'm a contractor, and, I got paid, and I did the work, and they don't want to release my money, and then they're not communicating with me anymore. So after this, I said, hey, these guys have to be put out of business. So I already contacted the Department of Defense. And,
wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
So it's free, but it's still free. Substack, robertmorningstar.substack.com. And the latest article I'm working on is called Fannie Willis and Her Boyfriend on the Hot Seat. That is... I watched the testimony of Fannie Willis, Nathan, what's his name? Nathan Gale, and her father. And it's quite a trip to see all the hemming and the hawing. And Fannie Willis was freaking out, She was yelling at the lawyer, "You're a liar. I'm not going to let you tell those lies about me." And the judge just had enough. He took the gavel, he slammed it. He said, 5-minute recess. And he just walked out. They also found, since President Trump's lawyers are really smart, they secured the telephone records for their cell phones, and they had 35 calls and 1,200 text messages between them before the trial began. They were denying that they had been romantically involved before the charges against Trump. So they're up the creek. They're up the creek without a paddle. So the first line of the article that I'm writing it says, "Oh, what tangled webs we weave when first we practice to deceive." It all comes back. Yeah.
Yeah. What's the context?
So anyway,
That's Shakespeare, isn't it?
No, actually, a lot of people. It is quoted in Shakespeare, but it's actually assigned originally to another literati.
Oh, prior to Shakespeare.
Yeah, prior to Shakespeare.
Incredible. So
I looked it up.
I think the Bohemian Grove, or what is it? Something weaving spiders need not enter, or something to that, along those lines. It's the motto that they have outside. I don't know if it's Bohemian Grove itself. Maybe they have a San Francisco sort of.
Yeah, that's the one in the Redwood Forest.
Yeah. So,
right.
Hey, last quick question here, because I think this is really important. Just keep it really brief. No need to, totally provide all the details. But Lieber, going back to this, Charles Lieber, really very important figure within the context of all of what we've been discussing here since, largely since Paul made his exit, but the whole scandemic and so forth in particular. What was his relationship with Fauci? The two of them, it's as if people are not connecting the dots at all. And I can almost guarantee you those two have known each other quite well for many years, correct?
Hand in glove. Fauci providing funding, and Lieber. Lieber, he got a fine of $1 million, but they didn't send him to jail, but so far. And then he had two Chinese students, virology students, who took samples, and one of them successfully got out of the country, but the other one they caught at Boston Airport trying to get out of the country with the samples. So I think that guy's in jail.
They had 20-some vials, this exotic bioweapons kind of grade material, 20-some vials of, and my question, simple question, is this the first time that this was attempted, or just the first time that they were caught? Because
first time they're caught, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Ralph Barrett is the other one. He was the one who was developing the main gain of function. And then, of course, Pfizer and Moderna were buying up their patents and applying it. And Moderna is centered in Israel, and Pfizer as well. It's a big operator there. But all the documentation is coming out. So this was intentional. The U.S. was part of it.
And what people say quite often, you hear, Trump, was squarely behind the warp speed agenda. That may be true. I wouldn't dispute that. However, at least at the same time, let's not forget he did advocate people's right to choose.
That's
whereas
right.
Biden, my body, my choice. No. Not when it comes to, getting people shot up.
He also told people that they could try monoclonal antibodies. That's what he took. Monoclonal antibodies when he caught COVID. So, but they fooled him. They came in, they were the experts. He was the new president, and they conned him. That's as simple as that. He didn't do that consciously. He thought he was too trusting.
Yeah, well, and
they've been developing it for a very long time. As a matter of fact, the documents that have emerged in the last 3 weeks that can be found on Substack. There's a guy on Substack whose report is called "The Second Smartest Man in the World." So the second smartest man in the world has been bringing out this documentation. And he found a document from 2019 referring to the technical name of the clot shot 2 years before it was named. You dig?
Yeah, I
And
think I heard you I think it was you shared that recently in some capacity via social media. I picked up on that. That's right.
Yeah. And also, a year before, in 2019, Denmark ordered masks against the technical name of the clot shot. And then we have Gavin Newsom paying off the Chinese $10.5 billion for all those useless masks that were sent. So, man, we're digging in and we're exposing the greatest crime in the history of humanity.
No doubt
and
about that.
Humanity is the target, and the enemy is the devil himself. And I'll leave you with this. The first trick of the devil is to make you believe that he doesn't exist. The second trick of the devil is to make you believe that he is God. The third trick of the devil is to make you believe that you are God. Remember that.
Oh, wow.
That's
I definitely dig. Yeah, thank you so much. That is really that's heavy and profound.
It certainly is. It certainly is.
I mean, really, so much of it goes back to it's ego. Frankly,
well, the ultimate ego is Lucifer, and Luciferianism is what's teaching people. Oh, you're God, you know.
Keep
God,
feeding it. Keep feeding me. Keep feeding me. Come on, more.
And it always leads you to self-destruction.
Right. Yeah. Tragic downfall.
But
that's right.
Anyway.
Okay.
It's 2:22 a.m. in New York City. It's a beautiful time to end the show.
Yeah.
And numerologically too.
Yeah. And so then 322 here, of course, was the show number itself. That name, the number that will mean something to a few people. I know it definitely, for us, it's can't help but think skull and bones, 322.
Yeah, 322, right?
So there you go.
Right.
Make of that what you will, dear listeners. Just one of those synchronicities. There's been a lot of that as of late here via this end of things, and where this is all leading exactly, I have no idea, but we're just enjoying the ride. It's like Bill Hicks said back in the day, buy the ticket, take the ride. So we've definitely we've done that. Thank you, Robert. We'll speak again shortly. This coming just a couple days, we have a future show with you. So all the best.
Great.
Thank you.
I look forward to it.
Happy sailing.
Have a good night.
All right. So yes, Robert Morningstar out of Manhattan, New York, USA. And we're just going to transition now. This has been a really long show, folks, for people that have hung in there. Of course, we've been trying to multitask and get these last tweets out, of course, a little behind on that front. All kinds of comments coming our way through the peanut gallery, and just really more than we can actually handle. So it would be great to have more hands on deck, but everyone playing their part, doing their job and fulfilling their function at an optimal level. So throw that out there as a challenge to all of our listeners, people who, it's great if you can help us out through PayPal, Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com. That's pirate, the numeral one radio at protonmail.com. Liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit the subscription and notification buttons, really essential in helping from an algorithm standpoint, small live streaming productions such as ourselves, manage to reach a larger audience and meet with greater success to actually have our voices heard. This net neutrality business is a total farce. Once again, you can add that to the laundry list of examples along with the phony rigged 2020 presidential election that took place, the scamdemic, this phony this man-made climate change business, a total, it's multi-billion dollar, fraud is a polite way of putting things. It's a shakedown, really. So it's just one more example of where we're being, the attempt on the part of the powers that be to sell us a false narrative and a false bill of goods. I guess, you're free. And we're not here to offer any, just to be clear, legal, medical or financial advice. We do encourage everyone out there to seek out the best professional support that they can. The views and opinions expressed on behalf of ourselves. Speaking for myself personally, the show's host, our guests, together, the two of us does not necessarily represent the views and opinions of either the wider listening audience or the show's sponsors. And you will hear more from our sponsors come this Tuesday, of course, with World Pirate Radio News. But there's just so much in the way of lies and deception. People, one thing we will strongly encourage you to do, and this has not been made completely, verboten, knock wood. You can bet that the powers that be is waging war on so-called mis and disinformation. What a joke that is. Anything, first of all, just people keep making a mistake, which that's entirely up for debate if we're allowed to, which attempts to even shut that down, basic First Amendment free speech rights. But disinformation is something where you more intentionally try to pull the wool over people's eyes and subvert things in a less less than honest way of doing so, obviously. So whatever the case, it's all up for debate. At least it ought to be. And to say things such as, "Oh, the science is closed," or "There's, we've debunked that." Well, that's one of those terms that just has to go. You'll notice that we rarely ever, use the term debunking, simply because it's just weak. It's really weak and doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot. Truth be told, it proves nothing, and it's just more than anything used for rhetorical reasons to try to persuade and convince people of a certain state of affairs. So we've got cats going a little bit off the wall right now, and they know fully well it's lunchtime, of course, time for a little feeding. And Mandu climbing up on my lap here with the other two. I'm not sure if Danny is outside, maybe trying to slightly sun himself. Things are rather overcast this afternoon, unfortunately, but we'll have some decent weather here shortly, I'm sure. Hang on, very very much at peace right now, sleeping in a very restful repose. So thank you once again for the support, Amos Dale 777, Karma Love, and everyone else. Vinny from Brooklyn, yes, we see you, Vinny. Pegleg Vinny, hoping that as Robert was mentioning, the two of you will be able to get together at some point, face-to-face encounter, maybe a coffee, we'll sit down over lunch or what have you. I think that'd be just really great. It's sort of, it's the power of the technology that we have at our disposal, where we are able to help facilitate these meetings and relationships where up until now, in the past, you would never have the chance for people to meet in the real world. So it's one of the great things that we do love about the show that we do. And hashtag good karma, I guess. What else can a person say? So Zane Ivy, who else we got there? I mean, Reverend Jim, once again. We always hate to, overlook or miss anybody. Joey Boomer. A lot of people that did not, a lot of lurkers. I encourage you once again to log in, folks. Become part of the conversation. Just a Girl, 1962, via DLive. Good to have you on board. I've definitely seen her around from time to time, so good stuff. Wow, Joshua Allen Huckle. Oh, this is crazy. Yeah, have you heard of the 2025 Christian? Well, this is interesting. I thought it was, what do they call it? Project 2025. Maybe we can get into that with Robert this coming Monday night, 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at 7 out in the West Coast, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Seattle, and so forth. But when it comes to New York, Miami, Montreal, 10 p.m. in the evening. Is it Project 2025 that Trump and his people are getting behind, along with a whole number of other more conservative type organizations? So, but anyways, this 2025 Christian Project, says Joshua, to use climate change to get worship in churches strictly moved to Sunday, and the Seventh-day Adventists have Sabbath from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, and worship on Saturdays. No, have not heard about that, but certainly something worth taking note of and paying attention to. So thank you, Joshua, for drawing it to our attention. All right. We have a couple videos here that we did collect and put together just in the lead up to all this. So why don't we take it from the top one more time? What the hell? Hopefully this will run through without, straight through, without too much difficulty. Now, what did Paul actually think he was up to? $150, whatever it takes to pay the rent, I guess, right? So it could quite easily have been used as a prank, or in any capacity whatsoever. Just get creative and use your imagination. But to think that it would be deployed in such a what is the word now? Justement en français, justement, used in such a really bizarre, off the wall context. The AI robocalls, the New Hampshire primaries. It says Robert has some of the last words he left us with, oh, what tangled webs we weave. So from the top, then, just a whole lot of malarkey, says Joe Biden. And just to remind listeners, this is not the clip in its entirety. We'll share that maybe with people this coming Tuesday night.
What a bunch of malarkey. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now. count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
Major tech companies signed a letter on Friday pledging to crack down on AI deepfakes that could affect this year's election. News Nation's Ryan Bass joins us with more on their pledge and the growing concern of AI. Ryan, good morning. What do we know?
Well, you mentioned, Hannah, there is growing concern over how AI misinformation could mislead voters and impact our upcoming elections. Well, tech giants, they're teaming up to try and stop this. They want to stop these people from deliberately trying to trick voters and make sure that they can work together to detect and fight these really harmful deepfakes. And we're talking about some of the biggest tech companies in the entire world. 20 of them, in fact, are teaming up, including Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, TikTok, and X, announcing this joint commitment to fight and find misinformation by AI in this year's elections, which, by the way, more than 4 billion people in over 40 countries worldwide were cast votes on leadership in 2024, including, of course, our presidential election coming up here in November. Now, the companies didn't go as far as to say that they'd be banning or removing these AI-generated deepfakes, but that they would work together to target, flag, and classify this content as fake to make sure that the public is more informed. Look, just last month, we saw how deepfakes can be weaponized to influence voters when AI-generated robocalls that mimicked the voice of President Biden tried to discourage people from voting in the New Hampshire primary. Now, I spoke with Ed Wattal. He is one of the nation's prominent voices on AI. He actually teaches an AI masterclass at NYU. He told me that even with these companies banding together, the onus is now on us to fact check what is real and what is fake.
Think of how this trust deficit and transparency in data and truth discovery will really need to be done. And it's not limited to elections. It's limited to everything, every produce you pick off the supermarket shelf that is promised to you. It's with every ad that you see for every prescribed medicine that you watch on television. It is not just about elections. And think hard about that truth. And as you think hard about that truth, think of your responsibility in the process.
It was a fascinating conversation with Ed. Several firms, actually, I will tell you, Hannah, including OpenAI and Meta, have actually said they will start labeling deepfakes and this AI-generated content in the coming months, which, by the way, is so crucial. And why is that? Well, because machine learning firm Clarity, they say there has been a 900% increase in deepfake videos year over year. So, Hannah, this is a growing problem, and these tech giants are trying to get out in front of it, especially with a very critical election for us here coming up in November.
Ryan Bass, thank you so much. Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
Back at 5:30 on the eve of the New Hampshire primary, just president. But Mary, it's not.
No, it's not the president, and the New Hampshire Attorney General is now investigating this as possible voter suppression, and it's raising concerns around how artificial intelligence could influence the elections.
Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
This is the fake message many New Hampshire voters are getting, an apparent artificial generation of the president's voice instructing people not to vote in Tuesday's primary.
What it does is reinforces a kind of a national concern that has been out there about the effect of artificial intelligence and how it might impact elections and campaigns in negative ways.
The message goes on to give the phone number of a former New Hampshire Democratic Party chair who is now running a super PAC for Biden's write-in campaign.
Unfortunately, we have entered into the deepfake era of political campaigns.
Joan Donovan is a renowned media manipulation expert. She says it will be very hard to track down who is behind this and why.
The technology is actually relatively free at this point. There are about a dozen companies offering celebrity voices.
While there are currently no federal regulations for AI-generated deepfakes, there are efforts to create them.
We see a lot of this starting to happen, and we want to restrict it within 90 days of elections.
State Senator Barry Feingold filed a bill that would make candidate deepfakes during election cycles punishable by up to $10,000 in Massachusetts.
I don't want people impersonating Donald Trump. I don't want people impersonating Joe Biden. I don't think it's good for our system. I don't think it's good for our democracy.
Now, the New Hampshire Attorney General is urging anyone who received this message to disregard it and report it to the Department of Justice. We're live in Derry, New Hampshire. Mary Marcos, NBC 10 Boston.
Hi, friend. I'm Olivia Smith. Thanks for visiting my YouTube channel, where I share the latest global news every day. You can also read more news on timeglitter.com. You can find all the links in the video description below. Friends, don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, share with others, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now let's jump into today's news. News headline: New Orleans magician says he made AI Biden robocall for aid to challenger. News details: a magician from New Orleans claims he made the audio recording of Joe Biden used in a famous robocall. He says he got paid by a consultant for Dean Phillips, who was running against Biden. Paul David Carpenter, known for his world records and hypnosis work, gave NBC News evidence like texts, calls, and payment proof to support his story. Carpenter says he was hired by Steve Kramer, a consultant for Phillips, to use AI to copy Biden's voice and tell people not to vote in New Hampshire's primary on January 23rd. Carpenter told NBC, "I made the audio, but I didn't send it out. I just did what I was paid for without knowing how it would be used." Law enforcement is investigating the recording, and the U.S. government has banned robocalls with AI voices. Carpenter told NBC that he found it so scary how simple it was for him to create the fake audio. He said it only took him less than 20 minutes and cost him $1. In exchange, he received $150, which he showed NBC through Venmo payments from Kramer and his father, Bruce Kramer. He also shared what he claimed was the original robocall audio file. Carpenter said he made it using software from 11 Labs, a company that says it can make a voice clone from existing speech samples. NBC mentioned that Kramer, an experienced political operative, didn't respond to Carpenter's version of events. However, NBC said Kramer would soon write an opinion piece to explain all. Phillips's campaign released a statement expressing disgust if Kramer was indeed behind the call. The campaign's press secretary, Katie Dolan, stated, "If it is true that Mr. Kramer had any involvement in the creation of deepfake robocalls, he did so on his own, not on behalf of our campaign." Dolan emphasized the campaign's commitment to competition, choice, and democracy, adding, "If the allegations are true, we absolutely denounce his actions." According to records from the Federal Election Commission, the Phillips campaign paid about $260,000 to Kramer in December and January. Kramer, who previously worked on Kanye West's 2020 presidential campaign, received these payments. NBC reported that there's no proof to suggest that the Minnesota congressman's campaign directed Kramer to create the audio or spread the robocall. Carpenter, who calls himself a digital nomad artist, joked that he's the missing magician from the political circus. He's known for setting world records like the fastest straitjacket escape and bending the most forks in under a minute. Carpenter doesn't have a permanent address, but identifies as a resident of New Orleans. Authorities in New Hampshire took action by issuing cease and desist orders and subpoenas to 2 Texas companies associated with the robocall: Life Corporation, suspected as the source, and Lingo Telecom, which transmitted it. Following the robocall scandal, the Federal Communications Commission unanimously decided to either fine companies using AI voices in their calls or block service providers carrying them. Despite Phillips's campaign efforts, Biden remains the presumptive Democratic nominee for the November presidential election. Phillips hinted at the idea of a unity ticket for the White House with Nikki Haley, who was losing the Republican primary to Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump. Friends, don't forget to hit the like button, drop a comment, share with others, and subscribe to the YouTube channel.
All right, there we go, folks. That was, in fact, the handful of videos that we ripped via the interwebs and thought you would appreciate, getting a chance to get a clear sense of what this exclusive scoop has essentially entailed. I'm sure there's a lot more yet to come. We're probably at this point really just scratching the surface. The concern of AI and using rigged electronics within the upcoming presidential election 2024. Major issue, of course, as has been for quite a few years. We really need to have more people speaking out, exposing the charade. You know, I can't, to me, it's just really quite odd and peculiar, once again, as we discussed with Robert, how more candidates are not talking about this issue. Although, as with so much in this corrupt world that we find ourselves a part of, it all leads back to money. Money. Follow the money. You know, keep your eyes on the Benjamins, or as is the case in all too many other examples and contexts, the shekels. Keep your eyes on the shekels. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com is our main email address. Once again, with respect to PayPal support, we have that great Teespring store in place. Coffee mugs, t-shirts, and so forth up for grabs. Minds.com, XD Live. What else are we looking at there? BitChute and Odyssey. As far as the archived end of things, we're going to do our best to, after running a little post-production, getting this show up via both archive and Odyssey in the most optimal way possible. And hope you've enjoyed everything. Hope you've had a chance to glean and to gain a little bit as far as, once again, what's been taking place on this whole front. You know, I'm still mystified by so much of what we've covered this week. It was a spontaneous, exclusive, and something that we actually stayed up until, had to have been, we were pushing 5 o'clock in the morning actually when we got to bed here via South Korea, and managed to pick up a couple hours sleep. So we'll be back probably with the news this actually we're going to connect with Robert, as we've talked about here several times already, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and then the news to follow that the next day, of course, the Standard Time slot, along with the Friday night feature show again in a week's time. Not so sure about Late Night in Korea. this go round. We'll get things off and running on that front, though, as soon as possible here. So, quite the year of the dragon. Things are turning out to be to this point. There's no mistaking that, and here we are, not even yet the month of March. So hope everyone has a great weekend, and thanks once again for all the support. It's really been a blast. Pushing 4 hours here, so I'm about all out of things to say. And once again, time for the cats to have their lunch. On behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair and all the rest of the crew here down in Skullport Harbor, until we meet again via these high digital, often all too intrepid digital seas, I'm your host as always, the show's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder, reminding you as always to keep your ear to the ground and eyes to the sky. Tally-ho! Aye now, there we be. Having carefully looked over each of our navigation panel instruments, checking every level, switch, dial, cable, knob, and pulley, by all accounts and indications, we indeed see it's time, once again, to drop anchor inside Mystic Bay, draw an end to yet another week of World Pirate Radio Live. Remember, if you're looking for a little more animated online action, keep in mind we've likely got yet another great free-flowing Rogues Gallery after show coming up for the next hour in one of our more premium exclusive and remote digital underground online pirate hideaways. Also, if you yourself have a new, novel, intriguing, or otherwise underreported idea, unique individual, or pressing item in mind, be sure to either drop us a line directly over on WPRPN.com or fire us a quick email via pirateoneradio@protonmail.com. We're always open to exploring fresh creative suggestions, intriguing guest ideas, cutting-edge discussion topics, and captivating themes. Remember, WPRPN.com member site subdomain links are also always available. Great for artists, musicians, podcasters, bloggers, social media personalities, or pretty much just any old landlubber looking to boost their online visibility, presence, and reach. Basic personal profile accounts can be launched for just $60 per year. Staking your claim now helps not only strengthen you and the network, we're also looking out for the little guy. That's right, folks. As much as half of all WPRPN's profits are redirected right back into the hands of the people who really need it most. Community charity. After all, we are the Robin Hood. You can further embark on your own personal pirate journey by either liking, sharing, commenting on, subscribing to, or just following us via virtually any mainstream social media platform, including Twitter, Facebook, Gab, or Minds.com. So don't forget to become engaged. Until we meet again out on the high digital seas, I'm your host as always, the ship's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. Tally-ho.